I'm not falling. And here's my clapboard. And I'm live. How you guys doing? I got this as close to midnight as possible. As you can see, it's a bit later than that. It's like 12:49 a.m. in the East Coast of the United States. I had an interesting day today that I have a feeling I may have no choice but to pull an all-nighter tonight. Another reason why I'm doing this so late, even though this is hardly unusual for my live streams to be midnight streams. But I think I have to pull an all-nighter because I have to be up very early in the morning to stake my place in a line. And even though they play some real shenanigans with that last, excuse me, still getting over that pneumonia. Pneumonia is no joke, by the way. Finally, even if you have a history of getting bronchitis and stuff, if you ever get pneumonia, it really can kick your ass. But there are shenanigans, people playing in this line that somebody who's driving in from Pleasantville saw me floating around there before 6:30 in the morning last Monday. And she's somebody that I don't normally have dialogue with because she plays fast and loose when it comes to ethics. And she even acknowledged that I had been there before her and that I was ahead of her. And I figured, well, and this usual fella that I see around here that acted like, and many people deferred to him like he ran the joint. I didn't see him he got there much later than he usually does. There was 3 or 4 other people there by the time he showed up. As a matter of fact, he didn't make his way to the line before the line. He hung out back smoking a joint. And I wasn't fazed by that because I had smoked some before I'd even got there. But anyway, when the official lineup happened and I put myself right in front where I was supposed to be. After all this time, it's about time somebody who actually lives in the neighborhood should get the first, number 1 spot in this line, right? Well, when the chick came out to actually pass out the numbers, that damn bitch from Pleasantville who drove up after I'd already been there, she was somehow ahead of me and she got number 1, and then some guy got number 2, and then I got the number 3 spot. And I'm thinking, what the ever living fuck, And I'm not going to say any particulars about what the organization was or anything, but it just, people play these kind of ghetto games, and it's exactly what they are. Just like the ghetto games that I experienced this morning when I went out to go take a walk on the boardwalk to hopefully run into some friends of mine. Another thing that happened, besides the things that were in the video that I made, somebody on maybe one of the bicyclists or something was sneaking some pictures of me, and I was not aware of this because, when I'm talking to you, I'm going to give you my full attention. And if I'm in a group of people and I'm talking to you and you and you, I'm going to be talking to you guys, and I'm probably, unless I have reason to make myself have the situational awareness, I'm not probably going to be scanning my surroundings, looking for perceived threats. It's not like before the weed legalization. If, say, I'm in a circle group of people and we're ready to pass a bowl around, then I would always be scanning the perimeter, the surroundings, looking for cops or narcs or anybody that could be a danger to us. I've been in situations where I was scanning, looking for signs of like gangs, or there are times when I was in Washington, D.C., I was scanning the perimeter, looking for signs of Antifa and Black Lives Matters and rabid Democrats that hate Trumpers and MAGA and stuff. You look for who you think would hurt you. But when you're relaxing among acquaintances in a non-risky environment, you're probably going to have your guard down. But they caught somebody taking pictures, and I have no idea whether it was just a curious looky-loo, whether it was somebody that was going to put my pictures on a site and try to defame my character, whether it's just a harmless person, whether it's somebody with a crush, whether it's a Hillside Strangler's protege. I don't know, and I'll never know. I didn't get a look at the person. Don't know. The only thing I'm pretty sure, it's a male. Don't know anything beyond that. So there was another thing that I wanted to bring up that seems to be a growing trend in Democrat-run cities. When I was at that health fair, or whatever you want to call it, there was people giving out these pamphlets, little tiny cards. One side's in English, the other side is in. These are in a variety of languages, and it basically encourages people not to cooperate with ICE and immigration authorities and everybody. And it's talking about you don't have permission to enter my home based on my Fourth Amendment rights, and it's just all this constitutional stuff to help illegals and people. And there's a lot of organizations on the left that are probably helping to distribute things. But this is one of the things that I saw. You want to know where I saw it? Right next to the voter registration area. I'm sorry, but you think that's a coincidence? Now, when I was in Washington D.C., I was floating around all kinds of organizations because I'm still exploring the area, and it's really good to know as much of an area as possible, especially if you're going to spend any amount of time there, especially if you're considering maybe even moving there, which I kind of, it's on my list of cities that I think are doable if I ever should have to leave this den of iniquity. But yeah, these are all encouraging people who are probably wouldn't otherwise have to know the protections of the United States Constitution. See, people forget something. Yes, we have this wonderful Bill of Rights and this wonderful Constitution. Now, some things like the Bill of Rights, they pretty much do protect everybody, such as you can't discriminate against on basis of religion and color and all that stuff, right? But on the other hand, we have certain, and plus it's just the right thing to do. Treat your neighbor as yourself. Treat people as harmless and kind, unless, of course, they're a scumbag. Oh, Thixamoto, hello. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but the more I look at those documentaries and everything, the more I'm thinking either maybe I'm addicted to the internet, or I mean, is there something wrong with me that I enjoy putting myself on video and doing all this stuff? And I just really, um, if it's a disease, I probably have it, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I didn't think there was anything wrong with that cute chick with the 3 inch long eyelashes either. She was a pretty girl. Who doesn't like pretty girls on the internet? Who doesn't like interesting content that is different than what they're going to turn on their television? I mean, there's a reason why anybody watches this, and we don't always know what it is, but I don't think it's harmful. And there's a heck of a lot worse things for people to watch than us, and there's a lot worse things people can be doing. And as far as addictions, there's a whole of a lot worse addictions. Am I right? So, and if you have a compulsion and a need, and it's better than having your Rice Krispies tell you to go out and be some kind of miscreant or something. We're not harming people. I don't think most of us are encouraging people to do bad things. But now I was actually in the middle of expressing a thought, and now I'm doing a President Biden moment. I don't remember what I was getting at. If anybody was actually paying attention to what the hell I was saying, well, I like Rice Krispies, but I don't like them made into the treats because I don't like marshmallows. But there are things that I do like. But if you guys are under 21, you should like turn away, close your eyes, go blah 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 blah, because it's after midnight. And this lady is over 21, and I live in a state where what I have in my hand is legal. And oh, automatic rating said, "Good to see you live, Leather. Love interview with Thixamoto." I thought that interview went very well. It was not my first interview, but it was probably the best one I've done yet because I was able to relax without feeling like I was blindsided by anything, even though I was answering questions that people I didn't see were sending me. And so they had no idea of what my of comfort level was. Um, Anybody who's had any kind of life On one hand, yeah, we all have stories, we all have memories, we've all done fun things. But you think the more you talk about things, people either think you're glorifying some of our more risky behaviors, like the drugs some of us used to do, the alcohol some of us used to drink, whatever. And if you're lucky, you learn from your things, and even maybe quit some of the things. And I quit a lot of things, but before I quit things, I did have a good time. And I know there's also a risk that the more you share your stories and people think, oh my goodness, how can you have this much experience? Then you're thinking, okay, what have you done lately? And right now, I'm a caregiver to somebody who's old and kind of fragile and needs help with things, and whose company I genuinely enjoy, and who is a genuine friend of mine and probably my closest confidant, even though there's some parts of my world she doesn't understand. And if you haven't figured out who I'm referring to by now, I'm referring to my mother. And I've been taking care of her for a while now. And um, I'm just going to ignore some of that stuff. I know that there are some people that tune into live streams because they're hoping to catch extremely outrageous behavior, and I'm sure there's a market for that. But that's not where my head's at, actually. Uh, Damn, I wish I'd poured myself some tea or coffee or something before I went on this. But that said, I do have a smoke inhalation device, and where the heck did I put what I want to put in it? That's the question. Um, oh, see. Oh, this actually somebody dropped this off behind the Salvation Army, and I actually had to. I thought I was going to have to fight a bunch of junkies for it. I love anything with cats on it. And this was not the crew that probably had kids or any compelling reason to want this, especially considering there's a bunch of other stuffed animals. And all I wanted was a cat. And I'll admit I was kind of intimidated by the looks of him. And at first I asked, and he said no. But I really wanted that cat, and I circled around throughout the night a couple of times, and then finally most of those bad people were gone, and I went and grabbed it. And so it actually has a story. And part of the reason why it's not been packed away yet is because I really want to wash it off. I usually wash off if I find anything, I wash it off. And that's also because if I don't wash things off, then the mice might get at it. And they sometimes bite at things to make their nests and stuff. And they also are incontinent, which means they shit and piss everywhere. And that's the thing that I don't like about them. Even though there's a lot of things I do like about them. And if you don't know already, this house probably has thousands of mice in them. And I feel really terrible whenever I find them dead. And I rescued them. I've gotten them out of my cat's mouths. I know how to take them out of glue traps. I really like them, and I know there's a lot of bad things about them, but I also know that they're also innocent creatures that are just trying to eat and just trying to get out of the cold like any of us would do, you know. They're doing some new things on the back end of YouTube now. I'm noticing they're giving people ratings and number twos and number threes and stuff. I guess based on your engagement, and I guess you get like totally nothing if you're being a troll or something. But they had said that they were going to do it, but I thought this only happened to bigger creators, and I'm a much smaller channel. Even though I've been doing this longer than a lot of YouTubers out there, I'm actually September 4th will be 13 years on this platform. And it's kind of a miracle that I'm still on it because YouTube has threatened to shut me down many times. They don't like certain thoughts and opinions we express. And the thing is that they are finally admitting that they were not just YouTube, but other social media platforms were being coerced by Biden et al. To not allow certain kind of speech and certain opinions to be expressed. And there was no joke between the humans in YouTube and the AIs flagging us for even very innocent content. I've had videos taken down that were cooking videos that featured my dead cats, that prominently featured my mother, and they just took them down. And when YouTube takes a video down, it never gives you an opportunity to re-download your stuff. Oh, am I saying this right? Panda Robo, you're a MAGA too? Hey, uh, I make no secret of where I roll. This is no secret. Um, I've loved him for years, way before he descended that escalator that I got to ride on because I was in New York City and I got to Trump Tower. And if you saw the videos, you know already. And I don't mean to be gloating, but I didn't think I was going to gain access, especially considering I'm carrying this big clunky computer that's bigger than this clunky computer I'm using now. And they were so nice to me there. They even, when I was running out of power, they let me plug in. And he is honest and charismatic. And yeah, and he's real. And just because I may not be a billionaire, I may not be have experience in real estate, I might not have employed literally millions of people, but it doesn't mean I can't relate to him. And in some ways, he reminds me of me. He reminds me of me, the part of me that opens my big mouth and says things without thinking sometimes. The part of me that just gets emotional, and if you attack me, you son of a bitch, I'm gonna get you back. Boom. He I love him so much. I admire him. I love that he's a smartass and he is intelligent. And okay, he's done some business dealings where he has come out on top. But hello, he went to Wharton School of Business. The man is an educated person. If you're educated and you're smart, of course, in some dealings there are going to be winners and there's going to be losers. You know what? I live in one of the little crappy towns that he helped to make great. A lot of people who live here can't stand him. Well, I'm not them. I know how to think for myself. And with what I know, and the fact that my mother worked for him for 16 years. So, I mean, there's that too. So, I have to give President Trump credit for putting food on the table and keeping our lights on and our heat on in the winter. So, no, the man's gold in my eyes. Nobody, you guys can say whatever you want about him. I love the guy. Okay. And so, yes, I'm proud to say that I dealt with the cold for his last inauguration. I dealt with the drizzle and the beautiful mid 50s for his first inauguration. I go to Washington a lot of times for things. And the fact that he's a truth teller, and I love the people that he's surrounding himself with. I am so, one of the things I've been dying to talk about is RFK Jr., another person I've been a fan of for a long time, and who probably is now my favorite Kennedy. Okay, and now keep in mind, I used to be a liberal and I used to be a Democrat. And I don't care what your political party is, who doesn't love the Kennedys? Maybe people older than me that actually were alive when Kennedy was assassinated and who know some of his catty, philandering ways and stuff. I'm sure he broke Jackie O's heart, and supposedly he was having an affair with Marilyn Monroe and all that stuff. I don't know. And again, allegedly. How many of us really know? It's not like we had cameras in the boudoir, right? And anyhow, not that philandering has never stopped a president from otherwise being a good president. Sexual infidelity doesn't have anything to do with your ability to run the country. And I think it's mostly chicks that are up to it like that. And you guys need to just get a grip. But I think president is, if not the best president in our lifetime, possibly the best president we ever had. When you think of the things he's accomplished, now what's this? He got another nomination for Nobel Peace Prize because he got brokered peace between another set of countries. I mean, this guy is on a roll. He's getting peace between these nations whose name I even forget in the Middle East. We didn't think that was practical, much less possible. This man knows how to negotiate. He knows how to strike deals. He knows how to get people to talk to him. Yeah, I don't know how he does it. Otherwise, I'd be successful like him. Okay, I have to respect the fact that he gets things done. I mean, the man hardly sleeps. What does he get? 3, 4 hours of sleep? He doesn't need it. Such a stark contrast to what we had before. And yes, I'm happy with what we. I'm happy. What? No, 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 no. What you said, deport the Browns. No, that is too strong a statement. There are bad people that need to be deported that might be whiter than me. It's just the people who are the criminals, the people who are the scumbags. Now, unfortunately, some of the people that I know in my life to be scumbags, they're citizens and they can't be deported. I wish those could be deported. That every time some asshole guy asks me how much I charge, asks me, am I working? I wish those people could be exiled to some place far away where they can't bother any of us other women. Unfortunately, they might possibly be breadwinners that keep kids fed and maybe dogs and cats fed. So no, we can't just deport everybody we don't like. You know. Yeah. Look, um, I could spend a lot of time and going after people that are really abusive, whatever. But I would kind of rather not do that, even though there are certain things that I think are uncrossable. But now I might not even see everything on the chat because if I'm not looking straight at it and my vision, unless I get really close like this, and see, I gotta be careful because you see how heavy this peace sign is. If I hit this up against this glass pipe, it's gonna break. And then I'm gonna not be too happy about that, even though I have others. If that broke, I could just use another one. But still, I'd really rather not because I just gave an extra pipe to a friend of mine who lost his. And, one of these days I am gonna run out. So, oh, okay. Also, you can block individual people on your end. All right. It's funny, the few times when I actually do exercise my right to moderate, I've gotten told by even people that have subscribed me for a long time that I shouldn't, if I actually block and ban people, even the ones that are harassing me, then I am stooping to their level and I'm turning into what we hate. And the thing is, well, say somebody decided they were going to post something really, really, really egregious, like plans for how to destroy the world, for instance. Of course, I would block that because I wouldn't want such information to be disseminated. Same thing if somebody was going to try to dox an ICE agent or something like that. I wouldn't allow that to happen because I support what they're doing, you know. But if people are just going to be belly aching about things, I'm going to ignore a lot of stuff. Yeah, yeah. See, you suck. I was thinking about you when you said please don't censor people. But it's like I can have people in my streams that are Democrats and Republicans. For a while there was this guy that was Russian from California was his name, I think, and he was arguing with somebody in the chat room, and they were like wanting to beat each other's asses over the internet. And I actually kind of thought it was funny, but I finally said, "Come on, you guys, I want you both to be part of this community, but please don't attack each other because um, let's focus on what we have in common here," which I would think that that's the point. uh um it's better than, okay, yeah, I just lost my train of thought now, but yeah, I always in life how I deal with people is I think, look, I can find, let me look for something in common with you. Like, okay, say I got to meet Barack Obama. You're thinking, what the hell would this right wing chick want to be meeting with the president, especially a Democrat? But you know what I would talk to him about? Well, first of all, I'd probably smoke weed with him because I think he inhales, and at least he did. I genuinely think that Michelle is a beautiful woman, and even though I won't I won't bring up anything negative. Okay, I will thank him for what he did on behalf of women's rights because I'm pro-choice also. So I will talk about things that I know he agrees with that I agree with. But I won't come out and lie to him and be phony and say, look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm not this right wing asshole with a little YouTube channel. But I will say that, I want to be fair and I want to give credit where credit's due. And there's things about him that I liked. But and I wish that politics wasn't such a blood sport that people didn't have to say such mean things to each other when they were running. The things like I noticed that Trump had his pet names for his rivals and stuff, and he could hit below the belt sometimes, and yet when things all blow over and all of a sudden everybody is on board and now he's got him in his cabinet and he's not calling people's names anymore, uh, like Lion Ted he used to say, and different things I probably shouldn't say anymore. Now it's water under the bridge. That is, how many industries are there where people can go and have these things and let it and be forgotten? That's kind of insults like that would be hard for most people to forget. And I don't think I'd want to be President Trump's enemy, but I don't think we ever would because I love everything he's doing. Now, one thing I'm concerned about is some of these initiatives that are supposed to evict homeless people from certain places. I would like to learn more about that as a person that has been in the quote unquote homeless community. I hope I never have to be again, but I don't know what the future holds. And I would really hate to say I would want to be in certain neighborhoods or close to them for different reasons. I wouldn't want to be told that I have to be so far on the outskirts. Like, for instance, I wouldn't want to be kicked away from the Capitol. I'd want to be kind of close to that. Well, because I would want to still be creating YouTube content. And the thing is, I wouldn't want to be looking homeless, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to avoid looking the part sometimes when you're going through some shit, or depending on what you use for housing. Like if you've got a tent pitched someplace and somebody sees you, well, the jig's up. I know when I was in California, one of the things I was always worried about is mixing my scenes and having people, respectable, professional people, seeing me when I was down on my luck. That messed with my head so much. To have actors and musicians see me when I was climbing out from the chain link fence surrounding an abandoned building that was an otherwise nice squat that I was living in with some friends of mine. It was much easier for me to be homeless in San Francisco than it was in Los Angeles because you just wanted to be so discreet in LA. And this wasn't even thinking about dealing with the cops and everything. It was just the shame of being seen. Here in Atlantic City, I can hang out with anybody I want, and only occasionally do the cops let me know that they thought that I was homeless because they see that I'm hanging out with them, which is another reason why I have to be especially careful, like with when I was playing my guitar and stuff, and when they kicked me off, and they were serious. The way they're giving tickets to people and stuff, they're really hurting uh, um, people and definitely disrupting people's livelihoods. And yet they're not. They kicked me off the boardwalk, and I wasn't causing harm or being a bad influence to children, except for when I cussed and I smoked weed. But you know how to turn your back on people and wait until kids go. Except for the cuss words, they just kind of slip out. Oh no! Oh no! Damn ants! I better make some more coffee and use up this sugar. The ants are getting on my computer. You have these tiny, tiny, tiny little ants. Yeah, but yes. Hey, Songbird, how you guys doing? Uh, chore boy, chore boy beanies. Is that right? I'm probably screwing up your name. Something awful, you know. Yeah, and I've been trying not to just kill every living thing anymore, just because even like how sometimes you see ants on a sink and you're thinking it'd be so easy to wash them down the drain, and I'm realizing they're otherwise minding their own business, and just because we notice them, we decide they have to die, and then I'm thinking, what gives me the right to do that? I mean, what if somebody noticed me and killed me? Look what's going on. Crime is increasing all over the country. And yes, a lot of it is by illegal aliens that, yes, need to be deported, which is, yes, why I support ICE. But still, to just randomly kill somebody just because, for what? I guess that makes me, according to PETA, makes me a speciesist. And by the way, I don't support PETA, but I do. What I do like about PETA is whenever they have petitions, usually about animal research or something, I will obviously sign them. Anything I can do to stop labs that experiment on animals and stuff. But anyway, I love mice. You know that. If you watched any of my videos, you know that I dote on them. They're just why are they so cute? Why do they have literally hands and feet? You ever hold a mouse and you look? They have little feet. They have little feet. They have little hands. I think they have even the opposable thumbs going on. They have knuckles. They have little fingernails. I mean, and they're hungry and they're just looking uh, for food and stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I disassembled all the snap traps, and I hid a lot of the poison. And I used to even leave bread out for them on the back of the stove because they live in the stove anyway. But my mom, I don't want to disrespect her, which doesn't mean that I never do things behind her back, but it is the fact that she's older and she has a heart condition, and I don't want her to be so scared. See, if she sees a mouse that's dead, she screams. I need to be more compassionate with that. I think they're just really precious. And no wonder they're afraid of human beings. Humans are so evil. Um, how do you guys feel if I do a little inhalation? I've been doing this now for over a half hour. I think YouTube gods don't strike me dead as long as it's not in the first like 15 seconds or something. So, and like I said, I'm over 21, so I'm glad you're legalizing it. I wish they would legalize it on a federal thing. I don't do anything else. I quit alcohol over 20 years ago. I quit chemicals over 23 years ago. This is the only thing that I do. But one of the things I'm concerned is somebody that does like to travel. What if I want to go to Texas, spend some time there? What if I want to go to Florida? I keep on hearing all these groovy things about Florida. Um, I think that I would enjoy Key West. I was told that I would enjoy Tampa. I think I love the food and the dance clubs in Miami. Now, one thing I'm worried about is the sun exposure. I have to totally stay out of the sun. It's a And now that I'm having a hard time finding sunscreen, having to wear long sleeves or those 3/4 length sleeves that cover me to here so that I don't have to use as much sunblock. I'm always carrying an umbrella. And, I never used to wear baseball caps before. Well, a lot of times because if you have really big hair, then it flattens it out and stuff. But ball caps give you some face protection. But of course, it make it harder to see your eyes when you get photographed. That's the thing that sucks about ball caps. Uh, and I hope the audio is okay. I hope you can hear me. Um, Excuse me. I turned off every fan in this house, at least every fan that's in this room. I'm very close to a window because I need a lot of extra light. And if this was in the daytime, I would have this window largely uncovered to try to get as much light as possible. You already know I can't move this beyond pivoting it around because the screen is very fragile. So I'm working on trying to find some kind of portable device or something. I just found out that one of my mother's friends who lives in Virginia is trying to teach my mother some internet skills and has got her a tablet or something. But that's not my business. I mean, I think it's important for people to be connected to their friends. And if she can do video chats and things and teach my mom some internet stuff, I have been trying to get my mom interested in the internet since before I got my first computer. Okay, I show her cat videos, I show her clean cut jokes, I show her any kind of messages any of her friends and some families have, send her. Uh, so she knows that there are some good things in the internet, but she also has seen some of the bad things on the internet. She's known what has happened to me and probably what happens to most people sometimes. And since I share with her the comments I get on my channel, and I've had some people that criticize me for that, saying that I should shield her from it. But the thing is, it's almost like saying that I need to bear my load all by myself. It's almost like saying, "Oh, this is a secret. Don't talk about your." No, no. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, you know. And if a person, especially if a person is actually being abused, no, you don't hold that in. You make sure that people know, and you share. You start with the people who care the most for you, and then you tell other people you can trust. Then you can vent. But no, I'm not going to keep it silent any more than I'm going to let the world not know that anything you're sending to me, I am sharing. So, which actually might make them think twice, because if you thought that you were exposing some old person with a heart condition to something, maybe you would try to be a little bit more civil. See, I'm always hoping. There's a part of me that's always hoping either I can do some kind of lead by example, or inspire someone in a good way, or make a person's cause a person's conscience to kick in. And I'm probably talking to a wall. It's probably like trying to talk to your cat and it give you that blank stare. And anybody who's ever had a cat or dog knows what I'm talking about. And still, we talk to them anyway. We pour our hearts to them, and they look at you like, like Biden, But we can try. It's okay. It's like if anybody has gone through when you first give up drinking. Is it was it just me, or do you think maybe my other friends will start following suit? Have you ever maybe used to do drugs and you walk away from them? Do you ever think, oh, maybe some of my friends will start following suit? And you wait year after year after year, and it's like, did anybody notice? I mean, I know we're all responsible for our lives only, and you shouldn't even be worrying about other people, especially when you've got enough troubles. Why do you need to focus about other people? We should just, I guess, mind our own business and work our own lives. But still, I know that before I got clean, before I got sober, there were people I looked up to because they were clean and sober. I'm thinking, you know what? So this clean and sober stuff isn't for me, but I really respect the fact that you're straight edge. I think it's cool that you don't drink and you don't use drugs. It's like, I'm not interested in all those things, but I think it's really, I respect you that you have the self discipline to do it. See, that's why I thought they did it because it was this self discipline thing. Now that I've gone through most aspects of it, and the only reason why I don't say all is because some people may say that cannabis doesn't count as far as your sobriety goes, and there's other people that say that if you're a social media personality, that you're hooked on that too, so you're another kind of junkie. Some people seem to think, which I think is like, what the hell? It's like they think we're all narcissists, when actually, I think in order to be a textbook narcissist, you can't have empathy. So I think that's how you uh, find out who those people are. Chusak. Oh, you have been back, back. You have been on. You've had my back for a long time, and I appreciate that. You know, there were times when I've been bullied, and you showed up with words of support. And if ever there's things you didn't understand when I explained to you, then you were cool about it. So, which means you know how to communicate and you understand. I appreciate that. There was a couple of weeks ago, I was really, really upset about a bunch of things. One of them was I was frustrated over the overwhelmingness of being a caregiver, and I was still sick from pneumonia, and I was so tired from that, and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing, and every time I would lay down and my head wasn't on the pillow 10 minutes when I'd start coughing again, and it was so miserable, and I lost a lot of sleep because of it, and I was not at my best. And when they discharged my mom from the nursing home, it was like only 4 days after I got out of the hospital, and I had no choice but to take care of business. The world doesn't stop just because it's inconvenient for you. I may be sick, but my mom still needs to eat. She still needs help, different things. But I will say this: She has gotten her strength back to the point where she needs me for less of the basic things. She she's gone come such a long way from when she couldn't cut up her food, she couldn't feed herself. She well now it isn't hurting that she has some special utensils that have padded handles on it. They're kind of like even bigger than this, but they're more comfortable to hold. And I thought that was a really great idea. They're kind of like miniature pool noodles. And she used something like that in the hospital, and we thought it was such a great idea. And she has like this exercise ball. It's like a stress ball, but it's much harder. Yes, yes, she's been home. She got home. Let me look on the calendar. Oh, okay. I will tell you the day she. Oh, hold on. I am looking for. Ah, I think it's so important to write things down. Okay, in July, the 1st of July or the 3rd, I went to the ER. The 4th, I had to go back to the hospital to get my antibiotics and my cough medicine and stuff. So that was on the way to this barbecue. So I went to this barbecue, and that was basically my 4th of July. I came home. I was sick as a dog. Sick and 5th, 6th and 6th. Then Monday the 7th, literally right after I got out of the hospital, Monday the 7th, my mom came home from the nursing home. Uh, and I was still sleeping most of the time. I got up to pee. I still had to eat a little bit to take the antibiotics so I wouldn't throw them up. So, but my mom had needs, and it was not easy. Okay. And, oh, and pot didn't taste good to me. I was really feeling yucky. Um, oh, Jews suck. Okay. Well, how do I feel about Trump withholding disaster aid if you don't do business with Israel? I support Trump. I trust his decisions. As you know, I'm a Zionist. I back Israel. As far as him withholding disaster aid, I don't think people are going to suffer because withholding aid doesn't mean people aren't going to get any aid. It just means they'll get less of it, knowing him. But, he has to sometimes do a little arm twisting to get people to stop being anti Semitic shitheads. One thing that he did say not too long ago is that one thing this administration is not going to tolerate is anti Semitism. That has been a growing threat since the 40s. Jewish people all over the diaspora have never felt more uncomfortable than they do now. And why is that? It's 2025. It isn't right. During a time that's supposed to have unprecedented civil rights, when it's never been better to be a black than in 2025 America, why do Jews have to look over their shoulder? Many of them are afraid to wear their religious garb. They're afraid to wear their yarmulkes. They're afraid they tuck in their Mogan Davids. They are hiding different conspicuous aspects of who they are because they're afraid of being targeted. You can't go to a gathering without having to worry about some sicko with ill intent doing terrible acts, acts of terrorism and stuff. It should not be, can't be tolerated. So yes, and all these people that are accusing Israel falsely of things is just contributing to that rhetoric that's going to inspire the next lone wolf to do some kind of act like what we've already seen happen. So yes, I back Trump and what he's doing. This is nothing is stopping people from donating privately to organizations that already do disaster relief. Like if say Trump does decide to withhold funds from people, organizations because they're refusing to do business with Israel, which what you're referring to is the divestiture uh, movement. People can still donate to the Red Cross. People can still donate to the Salvation Army organizations. Oh, Samaritan's Purse, they go right to disasters, especially if you're talking about Christians that want to make sure the money is going to help people in disasters. There are some good, legitimate organizations. If you're worried about cats that get caught in floods, Alley Cat Allies, they go into disaster areas like where the wildfires were, where the floods were. Uh, you know, so yeah, people, the private people, stop dependent on the government's tit. Okay, if you want, we all have organizations we care about. We all have causes we care about. My heart breaks when I see there's a tornado outbreak and people's houses blow away. You see these stories on the Weather Channel where people lose their pets in floods, and so, and it's like sometimes I have to take the sound off because I don't want to hear when your pets get swept away. There's very few happy endings, and it's like if I'm not going to get, at least if I'm watching fiction TV shows, they usually have a happy ending in a half hour. But no, with these real life things, these storm stories or whatever, you're seeing these heartbreaking stories. They talk about people went through Katrina, people I've met personally that have gone through disasters. Things that I'm grateful that I haven't really experienced. But yeah. But anyway, yeah, she has been back since the 7th of July, so that means she's been here over a month. But she's getting better and better. She can walk down the hall. How she walks down the hall without losing her balance is she uses one of her walkers. She has a thinner walker, that not the one with the built-in seat, but this is just a bare walker like that you usually see the old people, the stereotypical one that's just the metal supports. Well, she uses that, but it's folded up so it looks like an inline skate, and she walks down the hall with that in front of her, and it's like that walker leads the way, and she just goes down to the bathroom. We have this toilet that actually fits on top of the toilet. It somehow makes things a little bit easier for her to reach. But the only thing is that that needs to be taken off so other people can use it. And I found out that I was not the only one who had that opinion. So for a while there, I just kept her toilet on there and I just went elsewhere just because it was easier than dealing with it. But then other times I got kind of resentful because, like, why should I risk hitting my foot up against that when that's in a hole and I got to like step over that? And see, I can maneuver really well. I'm really flexible and stuff. But you got to think about easily being able to go down both ends of the hall. I don't want her to trip. I mean, but she'll freak out if she sees a dead mouse, you know. And now I have positioned the cord of this computer where it's not going to get caught next to this heavy artwork because I don't want to have another incident of the computer starting to fall down when it's already. I mean, if this was to fall, it would break. And I want to at least wait until I get another thing for filming before I let that happen. That's something I'm working on. I don't know whether see because sometimes see if only I could fast track getting my ID. I'm having a real problem with that. Oh, I don't know if that's outside or if that's inside. What I heard sounded like the sound that mice make sometimes when they're chewing in the walls. Oh, it's somebody outside. Uh, yeah. So, but yeah, if I could only, but the problem is there's this one piece of paperwork that I need to establish residency that I don't know if the paperwork needs to be more recent than 6 months ago or whether it needs to be no older than 2 months ago. And on an official governmental letterhead or something, and I'm thinking, you know, like I have a bill, but it's a Los Angeles bill, and I don't think that's going to help. So and plus they don't allow walk-ins. The nearest DMV to me does not allow walk-ins. Their their when you set up appointments, they're like about 2 months ahead of time. That's not going to help me now. No, we have to move. We're looking for a place. We're looking for a two-bedroom that fits all our requirements. And we were given a housing list, 4 pages, almost all ghetto. I'm not going back, out of the frying pan into another fire. I'm not going someplace where I walk down the street and it's all guys that look like they're extras from a rap video that have a fistful of hundreds and a 45 in their pocket and the sagging with their pants down. You see their underwear, you see their BVDs, and now they're doing this thing where they do belt their pants right under their asses. Yeah. Hey, oh, and by the way, now since we keep on paying the rent to the organization that bought it out, they are legally, according to our her lawyer, supposed to fix things like that leak where the roof was, and the roof leak. Which actually, you know what? I am grateful that we haven't had any more leaks because the last thing I want is to be, as soon as that went, I took everything out of there. I started putting a bunch of things in my mom's closet. I started looking for ways to cover things to make, waterproof, like suit protectors that you can put a lot of clothes in those things. But anyway, all the housing lists are places that we don't want to live. She doesn't want to live in a high rise. She doesn't want to be worried about climbing up a bunch of stairs. I think she's a little bit funny about elevators. I prefer living as low as possible because it's easier to get out real fast. The highest I ever lived was the fourth floor, and I was living in Los Angeles, and I was always worried about earthquakes. And also, if there's a police raid or something. One time, my roommate, why I didn't live in that particular apartment anymore, is that she had an opiate drug problem. And she was also the lady that had the parrot, if you remember the parrot stories, the 9/11 story. Well, she told me that the cops were on their way, that she called the cops on me. And I'm thinking, I could not imagine the roommate would call the cops on me. And it's funny that, Los Angeles, you figure the weather's all beautiful, hot and stuff. This was a day, for some reason, I put on a pair of pants. I'm a mini skirt and garter and stockings girl, you know that. But I had a pair of leopard print jeans. They were comfortable though. They had elastic waist and they were straight leg. They were real tight. And I had high top sneakers that I think was also leopard. And I put them on and a bunch of stud belts before any crazy stuff went down. Then all of a sudden she went cuckoo, and I had one of those really expandable backpacks that had an elastic waist drawstring thing. You could make it, the mouth part, really open. And I was shoving clothes in and shoving clothes and shoving clothes. And I actually got, it was kind of like Santa's sack. I got a lot of stuff out of there, and I'm already wearing my jewelry, my leather. I got all the spike armbands and a lot of the belts and stuff. And I had that on, and I went to my storage and I put most of my stuff in my storage. But she went cuckoo, and it was a couple of weeks later that I found out that she didn't actually call the cops. She just pretended to. But no, once you do something like that, it's like you violated my trust. I mean, because really, would a friend call the cops on you? I mean, it's not like we'd ever gotten in any kind of physical altercation. It's not like anybody had ever threatened anybody. Nobody ever saw any kind of weapon. I knew that she was in some kind of opiates, which were probably pills or maybe they were needles, but she was not, she was a discreet junkie. Maybe she only used to keep from getting sick. I don't know, but considering that I was still using a little bit of speed at the time, because I didn't quit speed until uh, a couple months later. It was November 19th is my clean day. So I was still using, in those days. But, speed users always look down on opiate users because we're doing something that at least we're up and we're alert and we can be productive and we can get stuff done and we don't waste time sleeping because we're getting things done. And meanwhile, the heroin users, they get, uh, and then they throw it up like this for hours and hours and hours, and then they throw up, and they have this compulsion that they have to get it, and this whole nodding out and throwing up just doesn't seem like very much fun. I'm sorry. Maybe I don't know because I haven't done it and I don't want to know. But and even though I don't regret my days doing whatever it is I did, I'm glad I stopped when I did, especially now that you have things like fentanyl and stuff. You got to worry about the purity of things and stuff. I'm really glad that I'm not tempted to do things. And I'm still naturally a night owl anyway, and I'm still naturally I have energy. I can see what now. It's 1:44 a.m. And I probably can't risk going to sleep because then because I mean, say I wash my face and go to bed, then I get up in time to throw some makeup on, and you have to have sunblock on. Absolutely have to, because where I live, the sun is coming in here, and because you're right on the shore, you don't have any skyscrapers protecting the sun from getting you. From like 6 o'clock in the morning or so, it's on you, and it gets on you sideways, right? So you need things like umbrella, brim hat, whatever. You need SPF, and you need long sleeves, and you need something that covers the back here. And I need to make sure that I don't have little tiny, tiny, tiny socks like what I'm wearing now, because what like oh, okay, I'll show you. You end up getting sun exposure here. See? Oh no, you can't see. Okay, you see at the edge of the stocking, but before the sock, you have that exposed skin there. And yes, you do have to worry about it. Um, when I was doing my packing early on, they told us we were supposed to be out on the 6th of January, right? And I was already getting ready. I was packing to go to Washington, D.C. because, certain things set in stone. Presidential inaugurations are one of those things. But when I was packing, one of the things that I packed up that I haven't been able to access is I had fingerless gloves, which I used specifically to protect my hands when I was in the sun. I used them when I was playing guitar. I used them when I was doing things with the computer outside. I cannot find them. That's another way that I protect myself. Okay, I got those two umbrellas now. That's great. But I mean, I've been sweating my ass off wearing long sleeves just to protect myself. I would love to be able to wear t-shirts like most people. I would love to be able to wear this, but during the daytime I couldn't do that. I couldn't expose my my back. I see people, they're totally going out there and their shoulders are being bombarded by UV rays. I know I'm watching people and I'm judging. I look out my window and I see these people that are just being bombarded, and I'm thinking, if you only knew how dangerous that sun was. If you only knew how many people get diagnosed with skin cancer. People like my father, and he was out there working in it, and sometimes he would sneak out before you could grease him up with sunblock and stuff. We used to get sunblock in quart containers. There's this company called NOAD. They had jugs of it. You know, I don't know if the company still exists anymore, but I would totally get it like that, because I am being forced to, and I don't want to forget, uh, my legs, my thigh area where the stockings end, and also some of my stockings. I'm afraid that they may let some of the UVs in, especially the shearer ones. Nobody wants to be wearing heavy socks when it's close to 100 degrees out, but you also want to have the protection. I sure don't want to be putting sun stuff underneath my clothes. Oh, and by the way, the white sunblock, which of course is my preference, it does get on your black clothing, but you put soap directly on it, it washes off. So, because I was doing my hand laundry a couple hours before I got on the this video, and I figured let me do a whole load and let that drip dry. It was just a couple of pairs of socks and a couple of pairs of stockings, and one shirt or two. Um, no, a shirt and a skirt, and that's dripping dry now. So I otherwise the laundry just piles up, and I wash my mother's underwear and her sleep shirts and stuff. And she likes to run around the house. She likes to wear oversized sleep shirts and sometimes drawstring pants. Well, if it's cold, she likes drawstring pants and stuff. So she was really happy with the things I found her. Uh, so I'm thinking I'm definitely going to be doing some videos showing some clothes haul videos from like stuff from the park. Sometimes people drop off bags of clothes and people are all digging through, and I'm walking down the street. I'm thinking, I see all these people like seagulls digging through things. Well, if I see clothes, I'm going to go over there because it's just human nature. And luckily, the stuff that I want is usually nothing like other people want. They're looking for practical things and usually a lot of neutrals and stuff. And I see things with the bright colors or things that I know will fit me or things that just I think are really striking. And occasionally I misjudge a size. And big things can always be belted, they can be drapey, you can work with them, or sometimes it just looks really bad, you just have to give it away again. The small things, sometimes I uh, misjudge what I can fit into, and I have ways of cutting it apart and turning it into other things. Like if the top is too tight to really get around my neck, I could turn it into a halter top where most of the back is missing, but it has a neck and it has something connecting it to the waist, and it shows the front. And anyway, there's ways of doing it so that it can fit you. And you could even then put it over a long sleeve shirt or something if you wanted to give yourself more coverage. So, you know. And then another plus to that is if you think about the weight of all this clothes you're accumulating, whenever you cut things up, you're basically getting rid of fabric and you're lightening your load, which is can be good if you're going to be wearing it in a backpack or something, or if you're going to, if it's anything that you're going to end up wearing when you're traveling or something. I think about that a lot too. I have these really skinny string backpacks that are obviously not practical for putting heavy things in because they do dig in and hurt your shoulders. But because they have all these different colors, you can color code organize your stuff. Like if you have clothes that are a specific color, you can use them. And I think it's really great that I can eyeball and I could see a bag of stuff, and I can pretty much usually remember what it is without having to put a sticker on it or a ribbon or something that says what it is. Um, if I found out that I had a chance to go to Washington D.C. tomorrow, say I didn't have to worry about waiting on my mom hand and foot or something, I could go. I know right away where the clothes are that I would get my stuff from. It doesn't mean I would necessarily take that whole bag, but the stuff that I would most likely want would be in it. Like I have a bag full of just red, white, and blue stuff. Obviously, that's going to be the bulk of what I would bring to Washington D.C. Then I always think of I like to when I pack. I always like to think of occasions that I plan on doing, different things or things I hope to do. Like I hope to do a formal thing. Like I got to go to the opera, and but I learned some valuable things. Though even though I packed for almost every eventuality, uh, I didn't get to wear all the things I wanted to because I didn't have time to go home and change clothes. When I do this again, what I'm going to do is because I always bring a little backpack with me, I'm going to bring certain changes of clothes with me, just have on me like the formal wear, so that the next time somebody hands me opera tickets and the curtain rises in 2 hours, I could just go into the metro bathroom or whatever and put on the gown or whatever. So that's what I would have done differently. Sauce, old head 667. Hello, welcome to my live stream. It is 1:53 a.m. East Coast time. And how are you tonight? We were just talking about my mom and how since I'm doing this caregiver thing, it's not always going to be easy for me to just leave town when there's things I want to do. Well, I earlier today I was hoping that I could feel like going on. There were a couple of times this week I really wanted to go online, do a live stream, but honestly, by the time it got to about that time, I honestly just didn't feel like it. And you need to have the energy, and most importantly, you have to be dressed and made up and have all the things set up. And that's the thing, is that when I decided, yes, I'm going to do this, I went and made sure that I did the makeup and everything. The only thing is, I got too lazy and I didn't take the hair down because I wanted to be cool and comfortable. Uh, and those claws that I was using to keep the pigtails in, they were starting to kind of hit up against me back here, and it wasn't very comfortable. And then every time I would close over, my hair get fucked up and everything. So, uh, if I seem really hot, it's because I'm trying to make sure you guys can hear me. So I turned off all the fans. Where my computer is, there is normally a window fan right here, and there would be a fan over there, and there's a fan there, and there's a fan there, but nothing's on, so I didn't want to have bad audio. Uh, got a ring light here. Uh, so I was thinking, right now it seems like one of the easier things for me to do to create content, since I don't seem to have a way to go filming outside, is for me to go out, have an adventure, come home, do a story time about it. And at least that's giving me some experience, and I'm sure that tomorrow morning, oh, you little bastards, yeah, they must have a sense of smell or something. What it is we have ants that are living underneath the concrete outside, and they have ant hills, and they're coming up to live their lives and stuff right in the cracks, and that's how they're coming in the building. And you know, the only way I can think of deal with them are inhumane ways, and I don't want to do that because I keep on thinking about, um, if we think about, poor mice are just looking for food and to get out of the elements, and we know they have pain, they feel pain. Do ants feel pain? We know that they're searching for food, and yet when they come into our homes, we really don't want them. We don't want them getting in our things. And I'm glad that these are the little tiny ones. As far as I know, they don't bite. I wonder if they're the same ones that used to eat the cat food. But the thing is, that bucket is sealed. It's air and watertight. That purple bucket that is down there always keeps the cat supplies. That's where there's a thing of kitty litter. Occasionally, I get cat food samples in the mail, because there will be a time when someone will get to eat them. I've got to make sure that when we're looking for places, that the place is either implicitly pet friendly, or, like would be the case for a friend of mine's building, would be easy enough to sneak in, because to avoid uh, paying a pet deposit. There's some places where you have to pay pet rent. Like my friend in Washington D.C., I think they charge $30 a month for cats. For your first cat, your second cat, I think, is another $30. You know, he lives in a beautiful building, and it comes with uh, the utilities. He has air conditioning. They had days close to 100 this summer, and if he was indoors, he was in air conditioning. Nice place, hardwood floors. And he's an artist, and so his walls are lined with his art. He's very prolific and he's very talented. His name is Craig Thompson, by the way, and I have on my Washington D.C. playlist. He's on there. If you appreciate fine art, please check him out. He also is a jewelry maker. He made this cat necklace, by the way, and I love these sparkly aurora borealis beads. And I love cats. And actually, he has a thing when he makes his necklaces. He uses them in threes and sevens as a meditative and a spiritual practice, probably like when people use prayer beads. He's a very deep individual, but I really respect his talent, and he cares about the environment. And he's just somebody that I've known since California. And he used to thumb across the country, and then he became a taxi driver, and he lived in the Midwest, and then he discovered Washington D.C. and, like many people, fell in love with it. And I really, aside from the fact that when it gets cold, and I really don't love cold, and I really don't love dressing for the cold. I was so cold when I was there to see Trump, and trying to look formal, wearing a gown over top of sweatpants and long johns and all that stuff, which the things you have to do unless you are going directly into climate control area. But if you're having to wait in these crowd control things, nakedness, back and forth, taking time because you're picking up ground scores and you're letting people take your picture and you're letting people interview you and blah blah blah, you know. Um, but I still had a really great time, and I really wish that I had lost that cell phone with all that footage. But I'm glad that I posted most of it. So, uh, and I dumped all the pictures to Facebook, and I put a few on Instagram. I'm really glad I finally got to join Instagram. Uh, but oh man, I want to get something to drink. Okay, wait here a second. I'm so thirsty. I'll be right back. All right. Now, don't trip out on the wine glass just because it's stoneware doesn't mean I'm a booze hound or anything. This is just water. I like to handle glassware. It just feels real classy. I can be setting a real vibe. Um, oh, I know what I can do. Hold this thought. Um, this is apple juice. Okay. Now, fruit juices have a lot of sugar. They say we got to cut down on the sugar. So I like to cut them with water. That's why I'm doing this. I'm really, 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 really thirsty. I like to put this in the fridge, and I need to do that within a day so it doesn't ferment. Once it ferments, it turns alcoholic, and then of course I have to flush it down the toilet. But there's really no room in the fridge, and you're just trying to shove things in. It's just apple juice. Anybody tuning in? I'm sober. That said, I really would like to smoke another bowl. No, I was seriously thirsty. Oh, no, I don't want to. See, I almost set this near. I have a light down there, but that will cause bacterial growth, and that will cause this to start fermenting. And I really do not want that to happen. That's something you have to be careful about with juices. If you let them sit out unrefrigerated too long in the heat, they can ferment. Uh, but I just if I don't put the bread in the refrigerator, it'll get moldy or the mice will find it. I do have some metal containers that are mouse proof and vermin proof. And this thing here, this is wonderful. I actually found this sitting outside a couple years ago. And this has one, two, three, four, five, six. The bottom four are nice big sizes, and then the top two are small. So I usually use the top two for hair things, and this has giant Ziploc bags. But the rest of this is food. The one that I have over my bed, you see that green thing. Whenever I'm passing over this way, is actually an upside down empty plastic storage container, and that has a little miniature one of these. It has two big things on the bottom that I use for coffee. Usually, the bottom one is regular coffee, and the top one is for decaf. And then the other two is whatever I need the space for. But right now, that is yeah, coffee and a box of cereal and a box of crackers, things that we don't want the mice to find. So, and they're in that really heavy plastic. This is impervious to the vermin. And, since my mom got discharged from the nursing home, I've been spoiling her rotten. I've been just, trying to whip up these really interesting meals. One thing that I really wish I could do is every time I go in the kitchen and I get an idea for something to make for us, I'd like to film this, man. And I can't risk moving this. Plus, where am I gonna mount it? You know how it is when you're in the kitchen, especially when things get hot and stuff, and trying to only show the clean parts of the kitchen, and because there's always some trolls that are going to focus on something that wasn't scrubbed enough, or God forbid you see a mouse running back in the background or something even worse, and it's like, um, when you're filming things, you can't. I don't have the technical ability to edit out things like that, and anyhow, I don't think I really want to because that's changing things and making it less real. And one of the benefits to creating largely unedited content, and I think to watching unedited content, is you're seeing something where you're not getting smoke blown up your hoo ha. Okay, you're getting something that is raw and something that is honest. And if people are telling the truth and they're not blowing uh, uh, smoke, well, except for when they are blowing smoke, uh, and I like to blow smoke sometimes, you know. And this helps with stress. It really does. Um, my mom is not on board with it. You know, she doesn't understand. I told her that she could probably reduce, if not eliminate, so many of the drugs that she's on if she had cannabis. So much of the things with cholesterol and blood pressure, all this stuff, but especially the stress. This is another one. This has a scorpion. And I noticed a lot of my friends, they're on team no screen. I don't understand why anybody wouldn't appreciate screens. They really protect your devices from getting clogged. They prevent you from inhaling burning embers that burn your throat and could do some real damage. You're getting big particulates that your body's going to have a hard time expelling from the body. It's bad enough having burning things go up to your go up your nose, go in your eye. I've had some uh, embers travel, but no, screens protect the lungs. And now they're saying that another danger of smoking things is that the repeated burning can cause problems. We don't. I don't want to put negative things into the air, but really, screens are a protection. But I think that they should market something to protect people's thumbs when they're touching these holes. Because sometimes I burn myself. That's why I always look for a piece of tissue or something, and I wad that up and I protect my thumb with it. But you got to be careful because sometimes you can catch the tissue on fire. I did that a couple times. I have friends who live here, and they're men, and they refuse to hold this pipe in their hand. They have filthy minds. They give me shit for it. I have this Hello Kitty pipe, which is too clogged. I can't even use because it's pink. I made a mistake of taking a picture of it, putting it on Facebook. And some pervy person thought it was the same thing that apparently people were throwing on the court at the women's basketball games. This is the Hello Kitty device. This was given to me by an old acquaintance, actually someone who was a classmate. I haven't been able to smoke out of it in years because I would have to. I'm afraid that the alcohol soaking process or whatever might damage this, and I don't want to damage this. But no, somebody thought that it was something else. First of all, if it was, why the hell would I take a picture holding it in my hand? That is a douchebaggy move. That is disgusting that somebody would even think that I would do something like that. I realize when people say things like that, it says a lot more about them than it does about us. Because their mind was in that direction, you know. But this, so far, it hasn't clogged. Occasionally, I have to uh, wiggle the screen because it gets impacted with resin and stuff. And when it starts to deteriorate, then I change screens. And I always burn the finish off a new screen first. I always use the same thing that I use to dunk coffee when I take the coffee pouches and I dunk them in the water after I brew them. When I'm not making a cowboy coffee, which is so much easier because you just stick the grounds in. But that same thing, that people all used to use for roach clips, um, you use that to hold the screen, stick it in the fire, burn that finish off it, then you put it in your pipe. So you're not burning any. I want you to see the roaches I found today. Now I'm not going to need to use these because I have a pack of weed somewhere that somebody actually went to a dispensary and got from me. I finally found the story behind it because I'm thinking, where did this come from? I thought somebody just gave it to them or something because there's so many different kinds of pouches and packages and stuff. So but anyway. Now this, keep in mind, a lot of this is that cardboard paper thing. This feels solid. This feels solid, but that tobacco paper I hate. This feels real. This is probably mostly cardboard. This thing, I don't know, is legit. But I'm just going to stick this back here. Trying to find that damn pouch. Oh, I want to show you guys something. I'm always cutting out the fishnets from the different produce bags. And this is from avocados. Have you ever seen this color green fishnet? I know this will have a purpose. I'm going to set this aside. I had a bag that had sewing scraps in it, you know, but that color fish netting. I have orange fish netting. I have yellow fish netting. These weird colors that you don't often have a reason to use, but when you have that one outfit that could really use it, that matching color. I love to do the matchy thing, and if I could find some, oh, I have a splash of this color that I'm looking for. It's like wow, you know. So, but anyway, I got this. I just washed it real good, but oh, I found what I was looking for. It was behind my notebook. This is from a dispensary near here, and this is called the brand, or not the brand. The kind of this is called Straw Nana, and it says URBNJ, like herb. Yeah, herb, New Jersey. Cute. Uh, and this was. Oh, by the way, if you've never opened these packages before, first you have to tear the seal, and then you have to pull this apart, and it's kind of like a Ziploc bag, but it's way harder and it's confusing because it's like they have this outside seal and inside seal, and you gotta work at it. They're trying to keep out of reach of kids. I understand that, but um, when you finally get it, and I can understand wanting to keep it sealed all the time because you don't want it to dry out. You want it to still be fresh and sticky and wonderful. But to be honest, it's not like it's going to last long. It's like with potato chips and cookies. You really think most people are going to just have, I'm going to just take one and that's all I'm going to have today, but I'll have another one tomorrow. And so this little bag's going to last me all month. No, I don't think for most of us it's like that. But this is what, oh, son of a bitch. Okay. Good thing about this is even though this carpet is almost has one of these colors in it, I will find this. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll have to wait until the daytime, but I will just have to remember that there is a bud down there. That's okay. I have this teeny tiny thing, and I have this, and I have this. And if in the off chance I did smoke all that, I have this so I still have a wake and bake for the morning, even though um, I really doubt that I'm going to be sleeping, and it would be stupid for me to see that. No, I haven't seen Bung Sam. Have you seen that Adam Sandler movie? Click. No, I like Adam Sandler. I love comedies. Um, I like his Hanukkah song, and he seems like a nice person. That movie where he played the father, and he was setting kind of questionable examples for this little kid, and it sounded like a cute movie. Um, I usually watch movies on cable when they finally uh, show up, but they probably edit a lot out of them, and they got a lot of commercials and stuff. But when I lived in Los Angeles and I would come home for Christmas and stuff, that would be my time to just watch all the TV, catch up on things. I rarely watched. I had TV in California, so I got to do most of the movie watching and even catch up on reruns of TV series here. Of TV, I guess is one of my guilty pleasures. Okay. Oh, it is so hot in here with no with no air conditioning, obviously, with no fans running. And they also help to quiet some of the noises from the idiots outside. You know, before when I didn't have this fan, sometimes people would be hanging out underneath the window and they'd be yelling and fighting and stuff. And I would throw the window open and say, "Could you please move it down the road?" But it's so much riskier to do it with this fan in the window because it's kind of balanced in the window. I wouldn't want it to fall out. If it fell out, it would shatter. If somebody was underneath it, it could literally kill them. It's not anything that we want to happen. It's not as heavy as an air conditioner would be, but still, it's definitely from this height would be lethal. Now, I probably would be able to grab the cord, but what if due to its weight, what if the cord didn't protect it from falling? And then saying I did pull it back out and obviously it didn't get to hurt anybody, could I risk using it, or would pulling it like that have damaged the connection? Because as bad as the wiring in this building is bad as it is, probably. So I don't think I should tempt fate by taking stupid chances. Okay, you got anybody underage or anybody who is going to be convinced to do bad things? Don't look. I want to smoke some weed. Excuse me. I thought I was going to take that sugar away so the ants couldn't find it anymore. I just wanted to show you something that I was going to stick at the cat grave maybe tomorrow. In between my getting the number, so you get the number at like 9:30, but you don't actually have to be back until like 1:30. So even if I allow for getting mom and me lunch, or else I can always, I mean, it's not like there's not food here, right? But I can bring her back and myself a plate of food, or I could at least stand and hang around the air conditioning and wait for her food. Actually, that's a big part of the draw. Any place that has air conditioning, it's like I just imagine stringing up a hammock and reclining, and I'm like, oh man, you know. Uh, but if I sit down, though, I'm going to have to wear something that I'm not going to mind sitting down, you know. And if it's a short skirt, then I'm going to need to take a shower as soon as I come home because I sat down in public place, and especially depending on the kind of chairs places have. If they're cloth chairs, you can't really sanitize them. At least things that are plastic or metal, you know, they can be wiped clean with bleach cloths and stuff. So, um, why? It's been a while since I did went live. Last time I went live was in my mom's nursing home, and so I recall I got in trouble doing that. Got snitched off. And next thing you know, somebody was tapping me on the shoulder saying, "Can I speak with you, please?" It's never a good thing when you hear that. And some lady that worked there said that I couldn't do that and I had to leave. And I didn't go for like a month. Yeah. But my mom told me that woman wasn't working there anymore. So I said, okay, I got back on the bus and everything was fine. And nobody else was any the wiser. Turned out that I'd made some kind of a comment about an unrelated subject, and somebody who's not a regular viewer of my channel thought that I was a bigot and a transphobe and all these other things. And basically, it doesn't take being a rocket scientist to find out which nursing home in Linwood I was in, since I think there's only two of them, and how many purple-haired women live streaming in a nursing home. Gee, how many? You got to narrow it down and find me. And I found out that what I was doing wasn't even illegal, by the way. But hey, whatever. I got to make some content. I got to show you guys interesting things. And that's the thing, is I like to show experiences. I like to show adventures. I like to say, look, I was there, I did this. This is a different place to do, like when I was dyeing my hair on the beach. People don't usually do that. And I did a makeup tutorial in a closed coffee shop called Gold Tooth Gertie's on the casino floor of Bally's Park Place Casino at like 2, 3 in the morning. It was something that most people probably didn't expect to encounter. It was a different place to do something, and I thought that was really amazing, to fun to do, and it's like when I'm talking to you now and I'm doing this, I may have people watching, or how I don't know how many people and how far they all are, but when you're actually in a public place, you kind of can see in a perimeter and notice that people are noticing you, and we all become part of this kind of greater scenery, and it's harder to ignore the people that are around you, even though if I was doing something like if I was doing a broadcast, I would try my best to focus on you guys and ignore all this bullshit. You notice how I still notice when people make odd noises outside, and I still kind of get rattled by some things, even though I should ignore them and pay attention to you. But when I hear so many times I'm getting ready to film, and all of a sudden, just that time, the neighbors will decide to hang out, gun their car engine for 10 minutes, blast their Spanish music real loud, let their kids bounce the ball, yell in their outside voices when they're 10 inches from each other. Go on and on. And mother would melt in my mouth. But it's like, at least in the wee hours, it's more peaceful. And at least for me, where I'm at right now, it is. Um, every day is different. Well, it's been so peaceful since the church has moved out. That's been the biggest improvement. They're all gone. That's a thing of the past. Nobody comes by thinking that they're going to be there. Everybody got the memo. Everything's boarded up. Things are quiet. Um, and it's funny, since the churches have been gone, you don't have the people hanging out outside like there was before. It's quiet. It's quiet. I love the quiet. I love it that my mom can have her TV on, watching whatever she wants without struggling to hear it when it's at 100. And my mom doesn't like things blasting, really. She's very reasonable, you know. I have to have mine at 100 when I have the fan on, and I wish I could make it louder. I can't play anything on this computer with any fans on unless I use the headphones. I have this thing here. This is the neatest thing. It's a combination headphone and headset. Now, if I was using this and talking into it, I probably would sound louder. But I would. The thing is, with this, it's got a cord, and I always forget that I'm attached to it. And I would go back and be moving around, and I would forget, and I would pull this, and I would smash this computer. So there's a lot of reasons why I'm not tethered to this. So, um, I thought I was in the process of getting some kind of a Bluetooth thing so I could walk around and do whatever. But right now, I think I got to focus on getting something else that's portable that I can film with, so I can go outside and I can make content. And but I want to spend as little as possible, because you saw what happened when I spent $500 and the thing either got stolen or got lost. I can't afford to keep on getting these financial hits. And also, I'm thinking they should have a loop of some kind attached. Remember when people had little disposable cameras? They came with a wrist strap. Cameras came with a wrist strap. Why the hell don't cell phones just come with a wrist strap that, unless I, if I had it on a wrist strap, I never would have lost it that day that my cat was buried. Because the last thing I did with my phone was look at the footage of his burial. It was an 11-minute video. Okay? 11 minutes or 14 minutes was one of the two. But I'm thinking it was 11 minutes. You know? The doorbell rang. There's two drunken friends. I had to come up with seats for them because my room isn't exactly an auditorium. I went in the kitchen. I had two chairs up, stacked on top of each other, that I'd gotten from the front room, the grow room when the ceiling caved in when we had that rain that time. So Miss Jasmine, hello. How are you this 2:28 a.m. Eastern Standard Time? Or no, Eastern Daylight Time, excuse me. Daylight Savings Time and all that hippie horse shit, right? Got my got this. Um I got some flowers that I'm probably going to put. I can't wait till these open. This is a some kind of a yellow flower. I don't know what it is. One thing I loved about that cell phone when for the brief amount of time when I had it, it had this feature that you took a picture of something and it told you, I identified right away what it was. And they had so many different sources, so you could cross check to make sure that something wasn't being misidentified. And I loved that. But the thing is, okay, say you had, if this hasn't been invented yet, say you have a cell phone, you obviously don't want to lose it, right? If I say had a watch that, okay, I can understand the phone being 10 feet away because I have it set up so I can do my turnaround, right? But if I keep on going, if say there is something so that my watch went off with an alarm and the phone went off with an alarm, so I would know that my phone was away from me and I needed to go get it. That would be a really great thing. I don't know if these things exist all. 7:30. I feel really in good spirits. I'm pulling an all nighter tonight because as of like 6:30 in the morning, I expect to be floating around. Um, I'm trying to get a very, very, very low number so I could get a bunch of free food, honestly. And because I vowed to myself that when my mom got out of the nursing home, I was going to spoil her rotten. I was going to feed her fancy meals. I was going to, you know, make up for all that, those substandard food that just did not delight her. On paper it looked really wonderful. She was getting all these fancy meals in the hospitals. They would give you these menus, and it looked really good. At the nursing home, I mean, 3 days in a row they forgot to give her coffee. How do you forget to give somebody coffee? Come on, something basic. We're not talking. My mother is not a difficult patient. She's not the kind of person to make request after request after request. She tolerated so much. She never complained about the roommate she had and different things. When I found out that, by the way, I could have taken Garfield to see her. There was somebody, she had a roommate, they had a dog that was taken in, and nobody asked my mom how she felt ahead of time. Was she afraid or whatever? And okay, it was a harmless little yappy dog, but still. And that roommate, that lady had stroke and was non-communicative, and it was really sad. And she needed a lot of medical care, and it's a good thing that my mom got another roommate. But when they took her out of there, oh, you wouldn't believe what they're putting my mom through. She needs her social security check because, well, things like rent bills have to be paid. Gee, well, the nursing home is trying to claw it back. And the thing is that my mother left deliberately before they could claim anything. Uh, yeah. If I could only safely carry the computer, I would. She so far doesn't feel like she could safely walk in here. Well, she's obviously asleep right now. I think she's. I don't know. Sometimes she watches TV way, way, way late at night. You know, um, it's great that TV broadcasts 24 hours. Used to be midnight, everything shut off. They played a national anthem, and nothing would come on until whatever. Or else all you would have would be commercials. But there's all kinds of reruns of TV series and stuff from times before we were born and stuff. And my mom watches a lot of westerns and stuff. I'm more of a news person. I check out the weather, but if you can get the weather on the internet, sometimes that does save time. I'll admit, with the cell phone, I really did enjoy the apps. I wish that the apps all had laptop versions because it looks like this computer really is breaking. I'm going to need to replace the computer, but I also think I need to get another cell phone. But I want to try something on the cheap end this time. Now, I don't understand. I tried to get into Timu. Um, I can't find my old password, and when I try to go through Google, it's like it doesn't recognize me. Timu should recognize I've done so many, made so many orders on it, and it says I don't have any orders, so obviously it doesn't recognize me. So, but I'm having this real big problem with my Hotmail. I have a password for it and everything, right? When I try to go on it, it says I need to this authentication app, which of course you can only use if you have a cell phone. I don't have a cell phone. I have a laptop computer that runs Windows 11. It will not believe, it doesn't say that I have the wrong password. I know it's not the wrong password. When they've maybe changed it the last time, I wrote the thing down. I'm not the village idiot. But they said that I needed to further prove my identity. And since all the other devices that I use to sign it on, most of them have gone to computer heaven. You know, I have I have rescued the hard drives of many machines. I have like 3 or 4 laptops that haven't. I'm not totally sure whether the hard drives can be salvaged or what, but I haven't. I'm not going to junk something, uh, especially if I think that there's any data on it or something. But it's much better if you can just save the hard drive because then you don't have all the weight of the rest of the thing. You know. But yeah, like I said earlier, I really miss doing this. Cause I would think to myself, I'd really like to do it. And late nights just seem like it would make more sense because I already had my makeup on. I was already dressed, or I had the opportunity to wear something cute. Plus, during the daytime, I'm so busy protecting my arms that I can't dare wear anything like this. This would totally give me skin cancer, and I'd be dead in 2 years. Uh, yeah, they're gonna corrupt the youth of America. Oh. See, this is starting to smell kind of like dirt weed, and that's a hell of a thing to say. Getting my tolerance has gotten high. Um, what I really like is dabs. Um, I I don't know if there's a way to do that because I was surprised how you were able to use a Facebook video. One thing I love about Facebook Messenger is how you can just do texting, which I like if I look like shit and I don't want people to see me, that's really great. But I love as long as I look cute, I love the video thing. What I don't like is when it goes off, I can't tell whether it's a video or audio only. And I always get nervous if it's in the morning and I just got up or something. Uh, but if I'm already uh, dressed and made up and stuff, then I welcome it. I've never been afraid of cameras and all that shit. But yeah, earlier tonight I was almost gonna wash my face and go to bed, and I said, "Dude, I gotta do it all nighter." You know. Oh, okay. Oh, see, I thought they did that built into the YouTube thing. Because I remember Nick Nimmin and some of the other teachers talking about the OBS. Uh, yeah, I might need to wait till I got something that's not falling apart. But I went on Timu and I was looking at cell phones and they had things as cheap as 50 something dollars. But I looked at the reviews and the reviews weren't good. You know, I I am spoiled on really good cameras. I love a really good camera. And I love when the AI is listening in and it gives me suggestions for things, or oh, you like that chocolate? Here's 6 pictures of it. I mean, it was kind of spooky, but um, well, I didn't like that sometimes it would say things when I would have preferred there to be quiet. So I probably wouldn't want to bring it in someplace unless I was absolutely sure I silenced all notifications and things. Oh, hotspots are good. Well, I found out that first of all, when I was in Washington D.C., there's a lot of places there that were flooded with Wi-Fi, and I noticed that I actually did have an Xfinity login that I had written down. You know, I write down everything that I can in one of my little black books, and I brought that with me to Washington, and so I was able half the time I was there, I was able through Xfinity to, including where I was staying. Usually, where I'm staying there, the Wi-Fi is in a specific room that they call the TV room. It has a free coffee machine, 6 different kinds of coffee. I love coffee. Okay, the only thing is you have to bring your own mug and your own sweetening, and the coffee is kick ass. It's one of these boutique coffee makers. And Walmart. Walmart has a lot of good stuff. That's where we were when we were cell phone shopping. We ended up finding this one that I had was on BestBuy.com, but the sale was only on the internet. And so I had to give him cash, and then he put it on his credit card. And yet we still had to take buses all over metropolitan Washington, D.C. to get the thing. That's why I was a little bit late going to see Trump the day before his actual inauguration. He was doing this thing called the Freedom Rally in the auditorium, and you have to walk, wait in all those lines. And did I tell you it was like 20 degrees or maybe colder than that? It was brutal. It was so damn cold. But the thing is, how I layered up by I just had the I have this leopard jacket that's forward down. You could ball it up and takes no space at all. And I layered that underneath this short red jacket because you figure red Republican, right? And like I would just take something like a flimsy red, white, and blue gown that was like floor length, and I would just layer it over sweatpants and stuff. You just put a bunch of layers on, and that's how you. And if you have to double up on socks, you double up on socks. But that's how I had to do the wintertime. You know, it's much more fun to be there in the summertime. You know, and mark my words, 4th of July, 2025, 20 2026. I am going to be there and you're going to see it because I am going to have some kind of tiny ass little device and I am going to be showing you my Washington, D.C. through my eyes. The Washington, D.C. that I love so much. And there's a lot of things now. I posted most of what I shot, but there are some things I did not post. It was just total uh, douchebaggery that I witnessed that I was not going to amplify their voices. And I saw some things where people were batshit crazy. And the only thing was really worthwhile about anything is I thought their appearance was pretty cool, but they were just nah. And I interviewed them. I treated them with respect. But one of the things I shared with, I showed one person when I was smoking weed with them in my house. Uh, but I would never ever put them on YouTube or anything because I would not amplify their opinions. And the other thing I saw was one of those anti-Israel protests that people were acting out and doing some things, and I wasn't going to show that. You know? See, I've been trying to get away with just using free Wi-Fi. The only time that I find that having data plans seems to really come in handy. Is I noticed trying to set up certain accounts, like I have been trying to join Truth Social. For some reason, I have been having the hardest time trying to sign up because they always seem to want to be able to text message you. And it's like apparently all these messaging services don't count for the same thing. It's like you have to have a phone number that you can text to. So that's why, but I've been trying to avoid paying for data plans. And I noticed they have so many plans that are as cheap as $20 a month. But the problem is, in order to get that discount, you have to do it on auto pay, which means they expect you to have a bank account that they can automatically deduct things from. And the thing is, I don't have a bank account. I don't want a bank account. I don't want to be visible, and that would maybe cause me to lose my health insurance. Especially when I'm in a state of flux that I don't know where we're going to be moving to. Right now, I know unfortunately it'll still have to be in Atlantic City because my mother doesn't want to be elsewhere, and I have to respect her choices. You know, I told her that she could get the best health care in the world in California, but it would take some time getting there. And obviously, I haven't made any effort into getting that bus because I kind of was spooked by the costs involved. When you told me it's going to cost me upwards of $30,000 to trick it out and turn it into an RV, I kind of bristled at that cost because I'm thinking, okay, with living in a bus, one thing you are putting everything in one basket. In that, say somebody carjacks you. That's your house, your possessions, your money, your pets, your mom, everything. Assuming you're not locked and loaded and able to defend them. And you're probably, in my case, it wouldn't be because I don't have a license, I don't have a permit. I live in a state that doesn't allow such self defense. So if somebody took my home and everything from me, what would I do? Or if a flood swept it away or whatever, what would I do? Everything is in one basket. But on the other hand, it would make evacuation so much easier because everything is here. You don't have to worry about grabbing armfuls of the most important things. Say, okay, pictures, electronics, definitely your cat, but just the sentimental things, and especially pictures. Oh, and the makeup. And but the pictures could be in three different heavy backpacks, and then of course in my case the hard drives, they're in this big rolled heavy piece of luggage that weighs about 300 pounds. So I'm going to have to get that out, and but which is that's one of the things I'm thinking about now. As a matter of fact, I would do more packing if I had more big luggage to shove things in. I have things in big plastic Ziploc bags, which, by the way, a bag alone is not impervious to the mouth of a little rodent that's sharp little teeth. You know. Oh, you got to see his stream, Miss Jasmine. He's a great guy, and he sent me links to some other things that he was in, and his character, if you want to call it that, or how he was portrayed, was, I thought, in a very sympathetic manner. I didn't, especially this thing about, um, well, the whole subject of why those of us who have channels, why we do live streams, why we make videos. There are some people apparently that want to psychoanalyze us and say, why do you feel that you need to have channels? Why do you feel you need to be online? And every person is different. I can't speak for other people. I know I do get a gratification of knowing that I can talk to people. I enjoy being able to express certain things that are interests of mine and share them with people. I enjoy sharing things. I enjoy when I can teach things. Teaching is such a groovy thing. Whenever I hear that somebody learned that they figured out how to take out certain kind of body jewelry because of one of these videos I made, that that's kind of what we live for, knowing that, hey, you learned something. You got found there's something that you was driving you crazy, that you wanted to learn how to do this thing, and you made put some search terms in, and you found my video, and you learned how to do that, and you went in back to the video and you thanked me, and that made me feel so good. Really, because you think, okay, I did this thing. How many years ago was this? Do people really care? In the grand scheme of things, I mean, I'm no Ben Franklin, okay, but Elon Musk is our modern day Ben Franklin. You know, yeah, I'm still a fan. Wish him and the Donald would kiss and make up. Um, do you mind if I do a little smoke inhalation? I'm over 21, I swear. I gotta lay off the junk food. I got so fat this year. I'm disgusted with myself. I was afraid to wear bare midriff, but it's like it's hot. No fans on, uh, and I keep on trying to get to. There's this one remaining dollar store that's clear up in the inlet near the resorts casino. But whenever I'm up there, I always have a bunch of. I have a cart with me, and maybe a big tote bag, maybe even a backpack. Because I'm probably got food. Sometimes I got clothes with me. You know, I don't feel comfortable going into stores when I have bags on because everybody's worried about shoplifting, right? So, but I would like to go check out that dollar store and see if by any chance they have any sunblock. That is one thing I really need, and the highest SPF, the better. Now this SPF 50 stuff I like. I do like it because it has a real serious white cast. It feels like that white, like the clown white that Kiss wears. It feels like that stuff that I actually put on my eyelids before I put my eyeshadow on. It helps the eyeshadow to stick. And I'm so glad I got this jar of it on Timu before all the tariffs and stuff. It sucks I can't get back into my original Timu account. Maybe if I go into my Gmail, I could just back into it that way. You know, Hopefully they won't make me sign in again. They don't recognize me on this device now because, like I said, I was looking at things like cell phones and things. I want to just get something that doesn't tell me that I have to get a plan. I want to get the device first, then I can go from there. So, if I do get a plan, then I want to get the device first. I mean, I don't trust these things where it's free, but you got to get T-Mobile and it's $60 a month, and there's this and there's that. It's like, and they don't say, at least in the commercials, they don't say for how many months you have to do this to make it consider. Because don't tell me something's free if you're paying all that. Uh, you know. And if you all of a sudden have a utility bill that you didn't have before, guess what? That is not free. I mean, a bill is a bill, am I right? Especially if you know what you do and you do not have coming in. That's the thing is any responsible person has to think before I embark on this, what do I have? Am I going to at least be able to break even? Like, okay, my biggest reason for not having too many homes when I moved to California is this. I knew when I came out there, even if I came out there with money in a little savings account, I knew that I didn't have money coming in. Okay. Occasionally, I would do some telemarketing thing where I'd be real lucky. I don't know how the hell I got a sale because I wasn't a closer. I was intimidated by, once my conscience kicked in and I realized that I was taking advantage of these poor sons of bitches, I felt like, is this really the right thing to do? I started off doing toner sales. And you get this script, and you're expected to follow it, and you're expected to, just anyway. And the great thing was that it was like something an hour plus commission, or then it became commission only. I think in the beginning it was something an hour, and then it switched to commission only. But I only lasted not even a week because every day there's a pressure to get people to agree to buy this ink for whatever. And you were just using old uh, phone directories, and a lot of the leads, the people didn't exist anymore or moved, was disconnected or something. And it was just, on the next one, on the next one, on the next one, and you had to develop a real thick skin. But when I but there was a lot of the time that I didn't have money coming in, so I sure didn't want to commit to all of a sudden having a big chunk of money coming out every month. And if I don't have money coming in, then the money's going to run out, and then what? So I'm thinking, for a while there, it was just so much easier to just live out of my car. You know, all I'm spending money on is gas and food, because this was and because I was socializing and it was all such a public thing, it wasn't such a like the homeless living from soup kitchen to soup kitchen existence that many people get in some kind of a rhythm with. I was conscious of I'm hanging out, having a social life, going to nightclubs. I would have died of embarrassment if those people knew that I was driving around looking for a safe place to park where nobody would notice me so I could curl up in the back seat and go to sleep. That was, there's a certain shame in that, and a certain you're in hiding. And but I felt that being in my car was safer than trusting people in their squats because you're sleeping and you don't know what's going to happen in your sleep. You don't know if the cops are going to raid the place. You don't know if there's vermin in the place. You don't know if somebody's going to try touching you in your sleep. I mean, or even if they'll let you sleep, maybe they're on so many drugs and they're rustling around and making noises and stuff, which that could be really irritating if you're trying to sleep and people are crinkling plastic. Even a cat crinkling plastic can kind of be annoying, you know, when you're trying to sleep, unless you have some kind of a white noise generator thing, which really would be dangerous because you need to hear if you're in any kind of danger. So really being in a vehicle is preferable to that. I remember the first time that I took a chance on sleeping in one of those buildings, and it was a place that I think it used to be a ballet studio. There was a mirror, and there was a bar, and somebody living there had a rabbit. And that sounds kind of cute, but of course, rabbits, if they don't wear diapers, they leave messes. But uh, but yeah, you have to think of, when you're in buildings, you have to worry. You're at the mercy of other people, and you have to trust them. They're telling you about this building, and okay, you know, if you're lucky, the whole building you'll get a room to yourself. Like after, say, it was redlined because there was an earthquake, and you have all these rooms. Everybody gets their own room, and I was really lucky. I got to live that way. But of course, we were very lucky that the building did not collapse and smother us, in an earthquake. Yeah, yeah, I saw something about that. That's sad. Yeah, yeah. I think it's MSN that gives a lot of pop culture news and stuff. And it's like if I want to, I can kind of get all kinds of general interest stuff. Uh, So it's not just the political stuff that I have on TV. You know what I put on do on YouTube a lot when I play is they have these videos that you could sleep to that are full of subliminals and affirmations that you can attract positivity to yourself and just positive self-talk and just don't be distracted by your current physical 3D and imagine the better more successful, doing what you want in life, maybe uh, in better shape. Just these things. I have been on kind of a halfway steady diet. I play them in my sleep. I on my TV, I can put YouTube on and I can put these videos uh, and that then I can actually listen to these things. Some of them are like 11 hours long, but I put things on there, and sometimes I have to turn the fan down a little bit so that I can really get the benefit of it. But I don't know how long they take to work because I've been playing over a year. But I mean, we don't fuck ourselves up in one day. So I imagine that it takes time of self work. And there's people that actually they take extra time and they meditate, which would be a really wonderful thing to do if I had a place here that was peaceful enough. I need to feel like, there's some fish that sleep with one eye open. They're asleep, but it's like they can turn it off. They use one half a brain at a time. So it's like you're always on. It's like you always have your watchdog mode. You can't totally relax and be in total sleep because you have to protect yourself. Anybody that's ever slept outside, you kind of sleep like that anyway. When I was living in San Francisco and I slept in a doorway of a place that at one time was our library, but then it became an American Indian library. But I was sleeping actually, you go up these steps and then there are these doorways. So it was kind of cool because in order to approach you, you had to be approached. People had to climb up steps and it was marble. And anyway, there was a certain um, if you've never been homeless and you've never lived publicly doing it, and now San Francisco, it's a different situation because it seemed like there was unending tent cities and stuff. But when I was there, it wasn't like that. You still. I try to be as discreet as possible. It wasn't overt, and when people in the real world saw, I was kind of ashamed, and it was kind of a mind fuck. Like one time, like I was never ever a baker. One time, I was sitting on some benches near the city hall, and I went in the ladies' room to fix my face or whatever the heck. And some lady gave me a handful of quarters or something, and it was like I wasn't asking for money or anything. It was kind of a real mind fuck, and it was very humbling experience when I'm already going through the humblingness of being homeless and hanging out all day in a park and I'm eating in soup kitchens because hello, if somebody's offering free food, everybody has to eat, or you're gonna eat a soup kitchen, you know. But Glad Memorial Church, by the way, you ever saw a movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith? That movie was so very realistic in some of its scenes, and he did show Glide Church. They had the best breakfast. First of all, you get all the best bread. I've said this in many videos. I'm like a broken record about this, but the best bread seems to be in San Francisco. That's where I think they started off with sourdough. Uh, but San Francisco has the best bread. They have really wonderful bagels that rival that of New York City. If you get the right bakery, uh, you get that seeded rye bread that is so wonderful. That's in any delicatessen. But the sourdough, they have Russian bread, they have pumpernickel. I could never totally give up breads. I'm sorry. Wonderful bread, the warm with butter melting on it is one of the joys of life. And if you get that Kalamata olive bread and you put some sliced lox on it, OMG. Oh, wash that down with some cranberry juice maybe, or V8, whatever. But something real healthy. I love lox. So I could never become a vegetarian. I'm sorry. Meat tastes too good. Fish tastes too good. I just couldn't do it. You know. But I need to give up the sweet crap though. Some of these places, the first thing they offer you is a sweet junk. You know. But if I had this school bus, I mean, and I would have a room for mom and everything. And the thing is, I would have a split level, kind of hip level. I would have walkways that cats could be so that they would uh, get dirt on the rest of the bus. And I was going to have plug-ins for electric guitars, and I was going to have little Marshalls, and I was going to have a little kitchen, but I was going to have as much solar power as possible. I wasn't going to use any gas canisters for anything, but I was still going to use a diesel engine. I was not going to use any. Uh, I don't trust the electric vehicles as far as now. If this is something we're going to be living in, I don't believe the electric technology is totally safe. Fire safe. So I just, but yeah, I hadn't planned on the cost being that much. But I'm thinking, rents are so ridiculously exorbitant, and I'm still trying to decide where I'm really gonna go. California was a given. Somewhere in LA, but the fires happened, and now that's messing with my head because I love LA. And it's like, I'm scared of that shit. I made my peace with the earthquakes. Everybody said, "Oh, the big one eventually. Be prepared for that." You know, it's kind of like when you go out in the ocean. You're prepared for rip currents. When I was a little kid, they called them undertow, and you knew how it felt, and you just instinctively knew you don't fight them. You relax, let them pull you out, relax, and even though it seems like you're way far away, swim parallel to shore. You catch a wave in. That's how you survive. But these poor people that obviously didn't grow up by the shore, they go on these exotic vacations, these beautiful places in the Caribbean or wherever, Jamaica, all these places are beautiful. Hawaii, they're all beautiful, I'm sure. I haven't been in any of them, but uh, I first of all, I wouldn't be going out that deep anyway because I know that the ocean is much more powerful than us. You can't fight the ocean. The ocean is this big, mighty thing you have to respect. When it pulls you in, relax, take it, and just ride belly wave into shore. That's what you do. You probably fine. And that's just heartbreaking. Whenever I go in the ocean, I'm also make sure that I'm right in front of the lifeguard, right in front of. And the thing is, a lot of times because of the way my hairstyle, I can't even get in. Plus, the thing is, the lifeguards around here they clock out at 6 p.m. and I can't be in the sun until it's darker than that. And so I have to take the chance of swimming in an unprotected beach. And if I do that, I make sure I'm around other people. And again, it's, a lot of times I'm using kind of skincare that doesn't allow me to even be in the sun. But the thing is, because it's so hot here and I am sweating so much, I have not been able to tolerate skincare on my face. So I'm not wearing those things that would make me more sensitive to the sun. But obviously I am. So I can't be out there because there's no shade when you're out there. Yeah, reading this. San Francisco's cool, foggy climate allows unique local yeast and bacteria to thrive, which gives their breads its distinctive flavor. It's, oh, their bread. Now, I've had some people say that as far as quote unquote Italian bread, which means different things to different people depending on where you are, but the Italian bread that is used here in Atlantic City for the submarine sandwiches, the best bakery is Rando's, if you want my opinion. It's not Formica's, it's Rando's because Formica's I thought was too spongy. Rando's, you get the loaf, you cut it in half. Some people will hollow out the center a little bit. I don't think you have to do that, but it's up to the person. Uh, See, I don't like breads to be soggy, but if you're making a so-called Italian sub, that just has basically a bunch of sliced deli meats in it, and it has shredded lettuce and an onion and thin sliced tomato, and you get these chopped up hot peppers that are so wonderful. They're like in a vinegar, and they're what kind of not pepperoncini because pepperoncini are the yellow ones, but they're the red peppers, and they're not that hot, but they're good, tasty hot. You can have them sliced or chopped up, and oh, they are so good. And add a little bit of salt to it, but a real Atlantic City sub. You get them at White House Subs. And they don't. This is not sponsored by them. I'm saying this is, but don't go to the ones in the casinos. Go to the actual one on Arctic Avenue near Mississippi Avenue, I believe. But you go there, and it has all these pictures of famous people from the 50s and 60s. on the walls, like people, black and white glossies and autographed whatever from people from before my time and stuff. I haven't been there. My father, when I was a little girl, he used to bring us subs home. But San Francisco, I loved. Um, Now, another thing that I learned how to do because of all the fog and the wind, I would learn to be quite good of a joint roller because I'm sitting on the top of the steps in a doorway where I'm about to bed down at night, and or anytime I'm hanging out, and if you can roll in the wind when it's really damp, so damp that your papers stick together, if you can manage to get halfway decent joint that doesn't look like it's pregnant in the middle and little on the ends, then you know that you're not too shabby. You know. Plus, it wasn't legal. It wasn't like, and cops would sometimes sneak up to you with those motorized bikes that you could turn off the motor, and they'd start asking one person after another if they're holding anything. And you got to think, okay, do I take a chance and say no and hope I don't get searched? Or do I say yes and get a ticket? Or do I say, get caught in a lie or whatever? You're getting all these ideas running in your head. But a lot of times, before they get to you, they get distracted. Something ends up happening. And that's what ended up happening. And something else happened and the guy went away. And it's like, he never got to ask me. And I'm so lucky because I had like just a little bit on me, but I still, because I heard that one thing you do not want to do is get caught lying caught. So I had to lie to a guardian angels once in Hollywood that caught me smoking a joint on the corner of Hollywood and Cherokee, and real right off of Hollywood Boulevard. And because they had the walkie-talkies and stuff, and they were kind of terrorizing punk rockers at the time, and I was a definite. I wasn't a gutter punk, but I was a squatter, and I was always very flamboyant, the big hair, and I did not identify as a punk rocker. I identified as a metalhead actually. Then I had the big purple hair, and I wore all the leather, the studs, and always had the garter belt, the stockings, and the cute outfits and stuff. But and usually some kind of leather jacket or something, and uh, gosh, I carried poetry in a briefcase, you know, because that way I could open it up and it would be protected. My journal would be protected. I would find some newspaper boxes on some street corner and I'd open it up and I would do reading and writing and talk philosophy to people walking around because I wasn't feeling particularly tired, you know. Oh, oh my goodness! It says energy savers on. Okay. Um, I'm going to have to plug this back in, so it's going to get dark. Or no, you know what? Hey, I know what I can do. Okay, I can do this, and I can put the computer plugged in up here. Okay. All right. All right. I was getting this warning saying that something about the battery. So I like Curtis Lewa. I haven't met him personally. I hope he wins the mayor thing in New York City. Um, but when I lived in Hollywood and I was living, we'd had earthquakes. We were living in squats caused by, the red line buildings that were left. So we had places to live. And the Guardian Angels at the time, they were harassing punk rockers. Had people hanging out on the street, people panhandling. I was never a panhandle, but I did hang out with my friends. I smoked weed on the street. I had employment. I was a stripper. Okay. So, but I like to hang out with my friends. I like to smoke weed in public. We had certain flamboyant looks, some of us. My friends have always tended to be street people. Plus, the time I didn't sleep too much, so I wasn't looking for places to sleep. I was just walking around town, hanging out on rooftops, talking to people, just having fun. There's most towns like Hollywood can be 24 hours. I'm here, hello, but uh, good to see you. Every time I find a mask floating around, I think of you, Amir. I put them, I leave them around some places, but I want to make sure that they're always in clean places. Uh, I was, uh, I was the more of a goth than punk side of the metal, because the one thing about the metal heads is they liked a lot of the plain Jane girls with the big tits, and they had suntans, and they had this. Well, I thought they didn't have any makeup at all, but what they just had was a no makeup look. I thought they weren't wearing makeup at all, and I noticed that like the national bands, they all seemed to like those girls, and I wasn't about to turn myself into something that I wasn't, and certainly can't be what those girls were. And I certainly wasn't going to get skin cancer, getting tan to look like them, or paint my skin brown to look like them, you know. But I thought that there was a little bit of a rivalry by the people who, okay, some people had, and I wrote a poem about this, which I'm not going to bother you with. But it was an observation about how there's people that liked their alcohol, then there were people that liked their speed, then there were people that liked their heroin, their opiates. And it seems like people looked derisively on each other for what they were doing. Like the drunks thought the tweakers were idiots, and the drunks thought the junkies were idiots. Well, everybody looks at drunks like they're idiots because alcohol makes you totally irresponsible and causes you to slowly kill yourself. Of course, heroin is idiotic because you have an addiction. You're not even enjoying it. You're throwing up, you're nodding out. Maybe you had one or two good experiences, but the rest of the time it doesn't look like fun. It seems to me that the most fun are the tweakers. You're doing speed, you're not sleeping, you're having adventures, you're writing poetry, you're writing song lyrics, you're doing art, you're doing all these things. You're talking philosophy, even if you have this false sense of things being profound, which that is the lie, which is the drug talking. And that's why I ultimately left chemicals, because when I'm getting these, I love these epiphanies, these religious experiences that we get through life. But when you find out that this false sense of the profound is only because of this funny little powder, then I felt so betrayed because I'm thinking I'm having this as practically religious experience. And no, it's a chemical. It's not even real, dude. And that made me look at myself and said, dude, I'm doing this and I'm probably doing, if I haven't already done brain damage, I walked away. That is how I walked away from crystal meth and cocaine and all those chemicals. I walked away. I said, have I already done damage to myself? I scared myself. It was almost like I was having some kind of a stroke or something, but it wasn't a stroke thing. But anyway, I scared myself straight. And 3 years later, I stopped drinking. Same day. Uh, hi. Coffee and weed. Fuck the world. Yes. Uh, you know, this was from a couple of days ago. Somebody got this for me. Somebody I'd been letting stay on my stairs. I really didn't mean for when I finally got rid of those donated bags of clothes. I didn't realize that that's what he was making. He was making him comfortable. I thought it was his own stuff, and you know, I didn't. I wasn't trying to evict him, but he was all spread out over the steps. And there were so many times when I wanted to go outside and I couldn't because I couldn't step over somebody sleeping over the whole stair landing. And there were times when I needed to throw something out real fast and I could use another exit, yeah, but then I would have to bring something to prop the door open so I wouldn't get locked out. And it was just becoming a hindrance. And plus, I'm dealing with my mom. It'd be bad. It's bad enough when I need to get her to go up and down a flight of stairs. She could do it, but it's very hard for her. And imagine if it was an emergency and it was late at night. You can't have the stairwell blocked. So he decided to go and find other housing. So, so since then, I'm now storing two giant pieces of luggage of other friends of mine. They're a homeless couple, and they've been sleeping on the beach and dodging cops and collecting tickets. And now there's some cops that are actually cool and are telling this one guy his girlfriend left him. And I don't know what's up with that. Um, but he says that some cops are actually telling him there's places that are safe to sleep. So, I mean, if you know that what cop's on duty and he's turning a blind eye, I guess it's okay. I don't know. All I know is people were always getting um, tickets, for sleeping. It was $150 each time, and it wasn't just on the boardwalk and on the beach. They run around with these ATVs with the big searchlights, and you could be close to the water's edge, and you could still beam it to underneath the boardwalk. And they're looking for any telltale signs. And sometimes people actually had pitched tents, like an orange tent. You're not going to be discovered, unless you do some digging and go underneath a lifeboat, which is how one of my friends did. And this was clear way down beach, you know, in the cold of the winter. That's why I let some people hang around in the winter time when we were having 20 degrees and colder. I would let people come in, and I did let some people sleep in here, but that's because it was so cold. Everybody was wearing lots of clothes, but oh man, when they started snoring, oh man, I'm sorry, but that's like the one. That's something that gets so annoying. Oh, and gum cracking. Oh man, I can't imagine committing murder, but gum cracking. Oh, no, no. But no, I don't like snoring. I don't think that I would appreciate having somebody snoring. You Oh, or how's about the Holy Trinity: snoring, razor stubble, and bad breath. Some people have all the luck. And anyway, yeah. But no. But in wintertime, at least, and then because this one guy where he'd be sleeping, he'd have his chair, and it'd be like this way, and it'd be like the view he would have gotten had I not had a whole lot of clothes on would have totally been the landing strip up to the proctology exam. Okay, I mean, it just there would have been no way for me to in the summer time. There's no way for me to be modest if I had anybody here. And people complain sometimes that they don't want to be stranded in Atlantic City. They got to take a bus to Mays Landing and all this stuff. And these people are invariably so drunk, and they get mad at you. I notice people that are still drinking heavily. And I, for the most part, keep my mouth shut. I don't judge people because obviously before I quit drinking, I did drink. And I did some real stupid things, just being annoying. And I mean, I'm annoying now as enough as it is. Can you imagine me on alcohol? It's not. It wasn't a good thing. There's a lot of good reasons why I quit. And women shouldn't be drinking anyway because our bodies aren't equipped to handle it. It's too dangerous for us. Not only in the very dangerous decisions that we can make, some of which benefit the men, of course, which is why we're encouraged to drink. And drinking is such an important accepted part of society and has been around for so many thousands of years, and it's hard to resist cultures. But when you think of what alcohol chemically does to people, and it's bringing down of inhibitions makes it so dangerous. It gives me what I call the what the hell. Oh, what the hell? Let's go jump off a cliff. Oh, what the hell? Let's go inject poison in our veins. Oh, what the hell? Oh, let's go join a cult like the Moonies and go drink funny Kool-Aid. Oh, what the hell? Oh, let's play chicken with another vehicle like James Dean did in some movie. Oh, what the hell? Yeah. Let's invite, let's go register to vote in New York City and vote in a communist. What the hell? Don't be stupid. This is, hmm, I'm so glad I quit alcohol. But I know you don't want me to be preaching you. But anyway, this friend of mine, good friend of mine, he got mad at me because I actually finally said something that I'd seen him drunker than I ever seen. He wanted me to feed him. I heated him some food. I just gave him one request. I said, please don't get crumbs on the floor because I don't want the mice and even worse to be fed. And he said, I can't promise you that, which is not what I wanted to hear. I mean, that was kind of rude to say that in someone's house. I'm just, I don't mind, if you call this hospitality in this hovel, I don't mind feeding you. Matter of fact, if I'm feeding you, you're doing me a favor because you're making space in my refrigerator or my freezer. Please eat our food, you know. Uh, Especially these aren't necessarily things that my mom's going to want to eat anyway. But then he was telling me his phone was down to 5%. And so, okay, let me plug it in. The place to plug it in would be the little bathroom because there's no plugs available here. He never got the phone out. Then when I told him that I couldn't be around that Michael Jackson music because I didn't want to get a copyright strike, and he said I had nothing to worry about, and he gave me this whole shebang excuse why those rules didn't apply to me. And it's like, he doesn't have a channel. He doesn't have any skin in the game. He doesn't have anything to lose. He talks a bunch of shit. I mean, he's funny. He makes great jokes. He was entertaining to have on my channel, yes. But when he told me that stuff about how I wouldn't get in trouble, and I did get a copyright notice on that video. It was an hour, a minute and a half, where one of Michael Jackson's songs was played in the background because we were near. It was either a ice cream shop or maybe it was a place that sold those frozen daiquiris. I don't know, but I wanted to keep on going. He wanted to sit his ass down. I didn't realize how intoxicated he was. When I kept on going, I thought he was following me there, and it turned out he stayed in the exact same spot. He had a friend with him who never made it from the liquor store to where he is now. And anyway, that kind of I'm used to seeing him intoxicated. I never knew that he actually was, but this time he was really, really, really out of control. And as a matter of fact, when was it that time or the time before that, he came over. He could not. He fell asleep. I couldn't wake him up to get him to leave. My mother came in. She kicked him out. He stood around outside next to our trash cans, like stood, like leaning up against them sometimes. When I went around the block to go looking for things, because sometimes Chicken Lady drops off things behind certain places, and sometimes people drop off clothes, and I like to go and see, dig around, whatever. I came back, he was still hanging around there. Well, he slept on my steps on the inside, lower than where the other guy had been sleeping. He couldn't even close the door because his feet were dangling out about a foot. But this guy is a really big guy, and I'm thinking, I don't think if anybody was going to do a home invasion, they open the door and they see two big black guys. I don't think anybody's going to breach the thing. And anyway, I didn't know about the thing being open all night until like the next day, so it's kind of water under the bridge. But now this house is very quiet because my mom is asleep and there's nobody on my stairwell. And uh, you see, I never needed any kind of rehab for any of my stuff. I saw with myself a cause and effect relationship with things with my own life. And I was never the kind of drinker I was. While I, yes, was drinking almost every day, and I was drinking alone, and I never drank beer. I preferred things like mixed drinks and even straight liquor. I could be out of control. But one kind of alcohol, the kind of alcoholic I was not was, I wasn't the kind of person that woke up shaking. I don't know what it's like to have to get to a liquor store. I got my drinks from the casinos, from the casino floor. When you sit down to play penny slots, you sit there and you take your time. You have a wristwatch, and every minute you pull on a penny slot. And some people that are watching what you're doing, it gets on their nerves. It's like, why do you care what somebody else is doing? Worry about your own machine. Worry about your own life. Don't worry about me. But I was doing this to save money, and also because I was waiting for the waitress. You know, then you could get two stiff drinks and give her $1 tip, and okay, if it's a penny section, she's not going to rush back. But still, think about that, and you wonder why people don't and how people don't turn into alcoholics. I never liked that term, and I still don't like that term. I just know that I am afraid to death of alcohol now, and I would really be so afraid that because I would just throw caution to the wind, and I would do stupid things, not thinking about the consequences. I would like just, I mean, total. I mean, if you want to talk about how can I do total self-destruct, act against my own best interests, alienate myself from family and friends, um, possibly get arrested. I mean, that's the way to do it. And the fact that it is still allowed in our culture. And, and there's so many places where people go where they can buy alcohol, where they can drink alcohol, see some live entertainment. And the only way to go home is by a motor vehicle. And okay, now there's all these lifts and taxis and all these different services that people can pay for transportation. But these are places that are not on where you can easily get bus rides. So it's really expensive to get transportation. So you think that it doesn't kind of encourage drinking and driving? That's something I think we should talk about. I have been a skin in the game with this because my BFF in Hollywood, now Burbank, her mom was killed by a drunk driver. She was only 16 and she lost her mother. Had to be raised by her grandmother in somewhere up in northern New Jersey. So apparently she was a Jersey girl before she made her way to Hollywood. She got to Hollywood like 2 years before I did. So, but 2 years earlier means getting to see more of the rock and roll stuff. You know, uh, I came out there wanting to be a part of the rock and roll stuff. And what I got to see definitely did not disappoint. Even though if I had been blonde with very large memories and all that, maybe a real suntan and maybe a bunch of tattoos, maybe I would have gotten more attention and stuff, but of course I wouldn't have been myself. Huh? Um, ooh, I just dropped that bag. I hope it didn't open and spill anything. Oh, no, it was closed. It didn't spill. You know what? I'm not gonna smoke anymore. I gotta leave something for tomorrow. Uh, but let me take a look at the time. It is 3:31. Uh, it's a good thing I plugged in when I did. Boy, it says now 31% available plugged in. That's good. It was down to when it goes to battery saver mode, that the battery's getting kind of low. So, but I want to put some water in this and put some of that apple juice in because I'm really parched. Hmm. I'm still trying to get the lighting right here. I look in every mirror. My eye makeup looks absolutely symmetrical. But on here, for some reason, it looks like I have more on one side than the other. You know, Oh, the other day I was taking pictures of this meal I was making. It was pork chops, and it was asparagus, and then it was mashed potatoes. With the gravy, I made a homemade gravy using the drippings from the pork chops, And I happened to have a package of mushrooms, so I was able to throw mushrooms in it at the last minute. Okay. And I had some dried sage from the garden. I actually they let that sage plant die. It's a shame because sage ends up being perennial. It can actually live for years, but they let it go. But anyway, I made my mom this real nice fancy meal, and I brought everything out into here to take pictures of it as I was constructing it. And I ended up getting some pork blood on the trackpad of the computer, and it was all I could do to keep from spilling plates of food on the keyboard because I can't. All I could do is pivot this, but I can't move the screen. It will snap, and if it snaps, it breaks. There's no electrical connection, you know, and that's I'm afraid to get it taken in for service because say I was to actually have a bunch of videos in a can, then he takes it in for servicing. Whatever videos are in the can are lost forever. At least if I film something, then I post it right away. You know, um, YouTube. Once this becomes a standalone video, and say YouTube decides that I did something or said something offensive, they could just take this whole thing down. When they took away my post feature for a while, I thought that they were trying to shut me down again. That's one of the things that got me upset this last time. When I didn't post for like 2 weeks, I was really bummed out. I'm thinking they're trying to shut me down again after all this. You know, I'm approaching my 13th year on this platform, and they're going to do me like that. Because YouTube can't be trusted. Oh, yeah. Don't stump. Doesn't stumware feel kind of dainty when you hold it in your hand? When I first realized that my life would be so much infinitely better if I just left alcohol alone, I wish I had known how not dreary life was. Really, it's and I don't find that I need to seek out other people who did and stop. I mean, I enjoy talking to them when I meet them, but you know, one of the things they always pass their hat around at the 12-step meetings, and it's like that that's stopped me from going to a lot of meetings actually, unless it was a meeting at a place that where homeless people hung out. Then you didn't have to worry about that. But you know, and last time I went to a meeting was in Washington D.C. and all I had was weed stuff and Trump stuff, and my MAGA hat didn't go over well. I had to disguise this this weed shirt that I had because I didn't know I was going to be invited to a meeting. Okay, you're going to invite somebody with a weed shirt to an AA meeting. Maybe you should think these things through ahead of time. And so the only thing I had to cover up this weed thing was a Trump button. It didn't occur to me that people hated him like some kind of disease. And yes, I had a MAGA hat on. It didn't occur to me. I wasn't trying to campaign for the guy. I was just, it's a hat. And plus, I thought that in part of being in Washington, D.C. meant you could really celebrate who you love. And this is who I love. And I can't celebrate who I love. I can't put on a hat of somebody that I love. What? I was not trying to offend people, and I honestly didn't realize the vehemence with which some people hated the guy. And of course, Washington D.C. is overwhelmingly liberal, and especially in the places that I seem to hang out in the most. I like the places that have the hippies, so to speak. I like the countercultural stuff, obviously. But I also love Chinatown. I love the stuff that's very obviously Asian. I love the cheap Chinese restaurants. Any place that has the Maniki Nikos, Yeah, got this gold one. Oh, I have to be careful because this cat house thing, cat bed, is starting to fall down. Can you see this behind me? Oops. This, I believe, is from San Francisco. Yeah. Now, I don't want this is, if I turn this carefully, this is a cat bed. Okay. I had this angled because at the time this would have been for, you would have been able to see a different view, but I really got to be careful with this computer. Yeah, but one of the things that has been sad is that I haven't been able to be a good influence on anybody that I know. I've still had so many friends drink themselves to death. They found them with a vodka bottle in their bed. They were living in a rooming house at least. There's this place called the Irish Pub that also has an inn about upstairs, and it's a kind of a bit of a police hangout. So I can't imagine a lot of people would want to drink there. Like I would have always made me feel uncomfortable in the day because the idea of drinking with police kind of just. I did once or twice, with my father, because with your father, you're your father, but it kind of is a mind fuck, especially if they're narcotics officers. I'm thinking, I'm having a cocktail with this guy that's on the force. In LA, you couldn't just talk to people. When you lived in Hollywood, you realize you can't even just nod hello to a cop who's friendly, who's in a car, because all of a sudden people say, hey, you're talking to a cop. What, you snitch? Can you be trusted? It damages your street cred. And when you're on the street and you're vulnerable, um, it's like, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but I talked respectfully and kind to people no matter what their walks of life were. Even people whose occupations I found personally detestful. They're distasteful. Like prostitution, for instance. I always thought that was an immoral thing, and that's a line that I could never imagine ever crossing. And even though I was a stripper, and some people think that there's not much difference, and there's a huge difference. And I've always gotten very angry whenever people assume that, well, if you're doing one, you're doing the other, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. And I fought so many people about that subject. But living in Hollywood, there was, for some people, some crossover. But the thing with Hollywood that I learned, when you're running the streets up and down, walking all over, you were friendly to anybody and anybody because it was kind of, I don't know, first of all, to me it seems like there's no reason not to be nice to people, because unless they give you a reason not to, then of course, you know, you know. But otherwise, why not treat a person like a human being? I never had a hard time with talking to homeless people all the time because they were always around and they're the eyes and the ears. And I've always, because I ended up being that myself, even though I always differentiated myself, the kind of homeless that I was, because I was more in the shadows and I was more discreet and I was still working face public facing jobs. I was a movie extra, or I was a stripper. I was still working even though I didn't have places to live. So, homeless isn't just this one big monolith. When they try to say that homeless people either have a drug problem or are crazy, that is so limiting and so wrong. And that's one of the things that whenever I hear people talking about homeless people in one way, and there's a lot of ignorance out there. So, but oh man, I miss California so much. You know, And I keep on thinking that all the opportunities that I missed out on, that for all I know, maybe because people saw that I was on drugs and don't want to take people seriously when they're all fucked up. And I'm thinking, since I don't have those issues, um, I will have less impediments to success. But I still need to do something about my storage, you know. Take a look at these roaches. Oh, okay. I see something real here. I don't want to get things in the keyboard. Hmm. You can't really see. I got it in my hand, but got something from. Mhm. Okay. All right. All right. It's now 3:45 a.m. Yeah, I'm talking about how great I am without alcohol and drugs, and here I am with weed in my hand. Do I sound like a hypocrite or what? Now, some people do call this marijuana maintenance. Mm, I'm just gonna, I'm not even gonna deal with this now. I'm just gonna save this for later because I still plan on going and checking and see who's gonna be doing the lineup things. You know, people used to leave placeholders around midnight. Somebody would take like a milk crate and they would put something, and people would do different things, and then people would hide things, and then you get somebody get caught moving things. Somebody hits ashed as a placeholder, and then lately they've been putting rocks and stones to hold the place. California's sober, okay. Okay. Hey, I'm so glad that I'm alive when during the legalization movement. I just wish that they would legalize it in some other states so that I don't have to worry about as I cross the country having any problems. I'm going different places. There's places I would like to check out to see if I would like living in them. I feel particularly drawn to southern states. I'm drawn to California. Well, I'm drawn to Texas. There's places in Texas, and I don't just mean Austin. So I get to watch the bats on the Congress Avenue Bridge or wherever it's at. I love bats. Uh, yeah. Well, that's all in whether you view cannabis as a drug or not. You know, hey, people say what they want. I know that over 20 years ago, I quit alcohol. I know that over 23 years ago, I quit chemicals such as crystal meth, such as cocaine, all chemicals. Walked away from them. Haven't touched them since. So, you can't take my sobriety from me. You can't take my clean from me. The fact that I like weed has no bearing on the fact that I don't do anything else. So, anybody thinks I'm not clean and sober, kiss what? But of all the things I'm grateful for, not drinking alcohol is the best thing. And you know, I realize everybody's responsible for what they do, but I'm tired of seeing my friends drink themselves to death. It just is really sad. And you're thinking, do you not? Are you not? Is nothing? I know that the sun doesn't rise or set on any of us. I know the world doesn't stop revolving just because of any of our conveniences. But still, you would like to think that you can be some kind of a good influence on some people sometimes. You know, you know how many of my friends have drunk themselves to death. I didn't really want to be stuck out here. But you make the best with things where they are. Oh, Delta 8. Oh, God, these guys are making so much. Mm. Oh, good, you're going on down. I think I recognize that big mouth too. See, with this fan, I can't yell at people. I think that's part of the reason why some people used to tune into my live streams just to hear me pick fights with the ghetto trash down the street. Boy, it's kind of peaceful. It's 3:50 a.m. in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Uh, I forgot to ask my mom what she was gonna feel like eating today, because usually with the meat, I keep it in the freezer and then I have to take it out to defrost. So sometimes it's a nice idea to find out the night before. But because she wasn't happy with a lot of the food that she had to eat at the nursing home. The hospitals had better food, but I was hanging out quite a lot of time, and I would see these menus. With the hospitals, they actually gave you menus. Didn't bring the thing in here. And now of all times when I wish I had the thing here to show you. And you know what? I'm going to get the thing. I am going to show you. I really thought, oh, yes, I put it in here. Check this out. When my mother stayed in that hospital up in Camden, New Jersey, did you know they actually had a menu? Check this out. The kind of food that they could get. My mother could get for lunch and dinner. Okay, chicken noodle soup, tomato basil soup, cream and potato soup. Okay, all these things are canned soups. All right. As far as main courses, pasta and marinara. Pasta topped with seasonal marinara sauce. Okay, spaghetti. Italian meatballs. Baked ground beef meatballs seasoned with garlic, oregano, parmesan, and breadcrumbs. Right away, I would know that I couldn't eat it because it had cheese. Smoky bean chili. Warm up with this hearty chili made with lentils, kidney beans, great northern beans, and a smoky barbecue seasoned tomato broth. I bet that was good. Southwest burrito. Black beans, tomatoes, corn, fire roasted jalapenos, and brown rice with cilantro, red sauce, and dairy-free cheddar. I wonder if they would take cheese off it if you asked. Pasta and mushroom bolognese. Am I saying that right? Pasta tossed in sauce made with slow simmered mushrooms, tomatoes, and spices. Citrus and herb crusted salmon. Citrus garlic marinated salmon fillet roasted in a crispy citrus herb crust. Rotisserie chicken quarter. Roasted brown sugar, mesquite, and garlic rubbed chicken quarter. Baked chicken tenders. Chicken tenders coated in seasoned breadcrumbs and baked until crispy. Farmer's meatloaf. Meatloaf and gravy. Herb crusted pork loin. That's pork roasted with honey mustard, garlic, rosemary, and thyme seasoning rub. Braised beef pot roast. Oh, my mother loves pot roast. Okay, these are You can get sandwiches and a talk different kind of breads. Had a choice of white wheat, flour tortilla, hamburger bun, or rye. You get entree salads, hummus with pita and vegetables, fresh fruit platter, chef salad. For dressing, you could get regular Italian, Italian fat free, French regular, ranch, Caesar, and balsamic vinegar. A side salad, you could get garden salad, Caesar salad, or low fat cottage cheese. You get so many things. Lunch and dinner. Let's see. You can get made to order pizzas. You can get veggie burger, turkey burgers, beef burgers, grilled chicken breast, grilled cheese sandwiches. You get three different kinds of cheese. You can get lettuce, tomato, onions, and pickles for extras. As far as cookies go, you get oatmeal, raisin, chocolate chip, Lorna Doones, and graham crackers. You can get chocolate brownies. You can get apple pies. You can get angel food cake. You can get four kinds of pudding, four kinds of gelatin. You can get chocolate and vanilla ice cream. You can get orange and lemon fruit ice. Oh my goodness. For vegetables, you could get sliced carrots, broccoli florets, cauliflower, green beans, green peas, corn. On the side, you can get brown rice, white rice, mashed potatoes, penny pasta, home fried potatoes, macaroni and cheese. Oh my goodness. I mean, you can get coffee, regular decaf, you can get tea, you can get decaf, you can get hot chocolate, herbal tea, decaf iced tea, ginger ale diet, lemonade juices. You can get apple, cranberry, grape, orange, prune. My God, this is a nice menu. The only thing is, I'm thinking, where's the Chinese food? Okay. Um, yeah, where's the Chinese food? Okay, we're talking about. I'm telling you how wonderful the food was. If I was there, I would be wanting Asian stuff, and I'm thinking, I'm glad they got Mediterranean. I love hummus. I love a good hummus. Hummus is real easy to make. All you have to do is get a couple of cans of garbanzo beans, boil them until they're softer, mash them with olive oil and lots of garlic, and maybe a little bit of pepper and a little tiny bit of tomato, but not too much tomato. I think just focus on garlic and olive oil. But yeah, this is the kind of food she was getting in Cooper Hospital. But at the nursing home, I mean, it's like whenever they would move her to a bigger number, she'd be further down the hall. Some of her favorite aides didn't manage to get up that high. So, like, there are times when they forgot to get her coffee, when the food was, like, not what the slip said it was going to be. That's why I was slipping her condiment packets and soy sauce and even kitchen herbs. We put them in her. She had those drawers, and so she could. And I even moved the chest of drawers so that she could actually sit up in bed and reach and get her snacks and things. This whole thing is nothing but stuff from her hospitals and nursing homes. Souvenirs from that. Even though she says that she doesn't want to relive those days, but you know. So I guess my takeaway from the hospital food menu thing is I guess it's like when you're booking an airplane ticket. I remember I used to be able to pick my meals ahead of time. And so I got specific meals that were, I don't know, usually some kind of Chinese food if that was offered, you know, or just, anything that didn't have cheese in it and stuff. Oh, good. My battery's at 34%. Uh, but, uh, But yeah, I would like to be able to go to Texas and be safe. I would like to really hang out a while. I would like to get to experience riding on horseback. I would like to just, I would like to immerse myself in the culture, and maybe live on a ranch for a little bit. I would like to have some life experiences as I cross the country and stuff. I don't want to necessarily be too close to the border because if uh, God forbid there is a change in administration and they decide to let this country go like all hell break loose again, I think I would feel safer with at least some miles away from some of the trouble. Uh, uh, Such an appetizing thought. Uh, one thing with these plastic girder belt things, they unhook and it gets kind of annoying. I've had to resort to using safety pins just to keep them from falling down. So, but yeah. Anyway, in the future, I'm gonna be showing you guys some things, but I'm not gonna do that now. Um, I think I'm gonna go and check on my mom and stuff. It has now been 3 minutes and 3 hours and 10 minutes and 25 seconds and going. This is kind of a little bit ridiculous. So, but thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to do some things. I'm definitely not going to be wearing this when I go and get my magic number. So, you guys have a safe night and day wherever you are in the world. And, spay and neuter your cats and all that stuff. Bye. Good night, Bubblelandia.